Chapter 674. The two of you can leave, Jinshin calmly said to the two female attendants. Yes, fourth young master. The two maids replied respectfully, and then retreated with light footsteps. Jinshin stared deeply at his brother, Changyang, who was currently lying in a wheelchair. He wore a set of tidy blue robes, and his limbless body could only lean against the back of the wheelchair. He had not changed much compared to before, but from Changyang, whose expression and gaze, Jinshin could see color. It was not the deathly gray and painful expression that he had imagined. From Changyang, whose gaze, Jinshin could tell that he had already walked out from the cruel shadow of losing his limbs. This made him feel very gratified. Brother, you've suffered. Have you been well these days? Jinshin walked over to Changyang, whose side, and asked softly. His voice was filled with concern. Changyang, whose face was filled with excitement. He looked at Jinshin with a smile and said, Haha, brother, don't worry about me. Although I've lost my limbs and become a cripple, I've been living very peacefully these days. After calming down and thinking about it, I've suddenly understood that a peaceful life is not necessarily a bad thing. Right now, I seem to have grown tired of the days of fighting and killing. I've fallen in love with this kind of life. Seeing Changyang, whose expression, Jinshin knew that Changyang, who was speaking from the bottom of his heart. He did not believe that his brother had purposely made this up to deceive him because he could sense his brother's current mood. Brother, don't worry. Your limbs will recover very soon. Once brother successfully becomes a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master, you'll recover completely, Jinshin swore. Ha, brother, I'll wait for that day. Although I've already gotten used to this kind of lifestyle, it's still very inconvenient for me to do certain things without my limbs. I also need someone to wait on me. If I can recover completely, that would be for the best. Changyang, who chuckled. Compared to before, his mental state had undergone a great change. He was like a completely different person. To him, recovering his limbs did not seem to be the same as other people, so that he could continue cultivating, fighting, or roaming the Tianyuan continent. Instead, it was just to make life more convenient. After not seeing him for a while, Changyang, who seemed to have lost his ambition. Jinshin could obviously sense his brother's change, but he did not know whether his brother's situation was good or bad. At that moment, Jinshin became rather worried. Suddenly, Changyang, who seemed to think of something. A strange light suddenly appeared in his eyes as he stared at Jinshin. He said, Brother, I've heard some news in the past few days. I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that you've already broken through to become a saint ruler. Is that true? Jinshin smiled. Brother, the news you've heard is half true and half false. Half true and half false. What do you mean? Changyang, who was puzzled. Jinshin said, Brother, I'm still a heaven saint master right now. I haven't broken through to saint ruler. It's just that due to some other reasons, my battle prowess is comparable to some of the weaker saint rulers. That's why they mistakenly believe that I've already become a saint ruler. Oh, I see. But as your big brother, I feel extremely proud that you've achieved so much at such a young age. With your talent, I believe that you'll become a true saint ruler before long. Jinshin smiled and said. Changyang, who chuckled. His heart had become much calmer. After learning that his brother possessed the battle prowess of a saint ruler, his emotions did not fluctuate too much. He was clearly much calmer than the senior members of the Changyang prefecture. His heart seemed to have become as firm as a rock. Brother, I'll accompany you around the estate. You must be bored out of your mind from being cooped up in your room all day, Jinshin suggested as he pushed his wheelchair downstairs. Brother, let's just walk around the courtyard. There's no need to stroll around the rest of the estate. Right now, I don't like to be in places with too many people. I feel like it's too noisy there. I still like to be in places that are quieter. Only like that can I calm down completely. Jinshin accompanied his brother for an entire day before leaving. During that day, he talked a lot with his brother. From their conversation, Jinshin could not help but accept the fact that his brother had changed. Sometimes, Jinshin even felt like his brother had seen through the world of mortals and possessed a state of mind that truly had no desires. Even something as important as recovering his limbs would not affect his state of mind too much. It was as if it did not make much of a difference to Changyang who whether he had limbs or not. At night, Jianshan first went to Bai Hai's room to chat with his great-grandfather for a while before returning to his own room to rest. Jianshan sat cross-legged on his bed in an extremely luxurious room. He held a space ring in his hand. This was something he had obtained from the saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger, Sita Qing. This saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger Shore is rich. He has over a dozen violet cards. He must have obtained them from someone else. I wonder just how many violet coins are in there. Jianshan could not help but sigh as he carefully checked the items in the space ring. After all, the saint ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger was an old monster who had lived for over 1,000 years. He was also a hermit saint ruler, so his collection was obviously extremely rich. It was not something a heaven saint master could compare to. There were countless precious items, but many of them were things that Jianshan did not recognize. At this moment, Jianshan pulled out a thick book from the space ring. On the cover of the book were the words Dragon and Tiger Battle, the Heavens Technique. A gleam of light flashed through Jianshan's eyes when he saw the words on the cover. He immediately began to flip through the book. Afterward, a sliver of excitement appeared on his face as he murmured, "It's actually a heaven-tier battle skill. This should be the heaven-tier battle skill of the sect of Dragon and Tiger. He really does have it on him." Jianshan held the heaven-tier battle skill in his hand as he thought for a while. He then said to himself, "Right now, my Chanyang Prefecture's reputation is great. There's basically no one who dares to provoke us within a radius of 100,000 kilometers. We already have enough power to protect this heaven-tier battle skill. This heaven-tier battle skill can be placed in Chanyang Prefecture. I'll give this battle skill to Father tomorrow morning." The heaven-tier battle skill that belonged to the sect of Dragon and Tiger, the Dragon-Tiger battle skill, was distributed very quickly and became the property of the Chanyang clan. Jianshan placed the heaven-tier battle skill of the dragon and lake to one side before continuing to look through the items in the space ring. A while later, he finally pulled out a scroll that had been rolled up into a cylinder. Could the shortcut to breaking through to Saint Ruler be this scroll? Jianshan murmured to himself as he looked at the scroll in his hand with a burning gaze. The thing that he coveted the most in the space ring of the Saint Ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger was the scroll that could help people break through to Saint Ruler. Jianshan immediately untied the rope that bound the scroll and unfurled it. The scroll was not large, only about a foot wide and a meter long. The paper was extremely soft, just like a piece of skin instead of paper. Chapter 675. Did I get the wrong one? This isn't the scroll that the Saint Ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger said can help people break through to Saint Ruler. He stared blankly at the blank scroll in his hand as he murmured to himself. Thinking up to there, he immediately put down the blank scroll in his hand and continued to rummage through his space ring. Before long, Jianshan pulled out another 3 scrolls from his space ring. The 3 scrolls were all made from the fur of ordinary magical beasts. The material was extremely ordinary, so they did not seem valuable at all. Jianshan did not overlook the existence of the 3 scrolls because of this. He opened them one by one to check what was recorded inside, but he was extremely disappointed. The 3 scrolls were filled with words, but they were all notes left behind by the Saint Ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger. They recorded some unimportant matters, let alone the fact that there was no information about breaking through to Saint Ruler. They were not even helpful to Jianshan at all. Jianshan put down the 3 scrolls in disappointment. He did not give up and continued searching through his space ring, but this time he did not find the 5th scroll even after going through everything in the space ring several times. What is the scroll that can help people break through to Saint Ruler? Why can't I find it? Did the Saint Ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger not put it in his space ring? Jianshan thought, impossible. It's impossible for him to put something so precious elsewhere. He should have been carrying it with him at all times. Jianshan rejected his thoughts very quickly. He then picked up the only scrolls he found in the space ring and checked them one by one. In the end, his gaze landed on the blank scroll because it was made from special material. Jianshan flipped the blank scroll around as if he wanted to find the secret hidden within. At this moment, Jinshin's head suddenly shuddered. The fragments of the mysteries of the world that he had absorbed in the sacred grounds of Mercenary City suddenly became active, sending a profound message to Jinshin. Jinshin could not help but close his eyes. At that moment, his soul was brought into a wondrous state by the fragments of the mysteries of the world that had suddenly become active. He forgot about himself and sank into chaos. Jinshin felt like his mind had established an extremely obscure connection with the blank scroll in his hand, as if the scroll had already fused with his soul and become a part of him. At the same time, the blank scroll in Jinshin's hand shone with a hazy golden light. It actually left Jinshin's hand and floated up by itself. Afterwards, golden streaks drifted out from the scroll, constantly drawing out profound streaks in the air. As the streaks formed, the surrounding space twisted slightly. It seemed to be able to affect the surrounding space. At the same time, an invisible and formless energy appeared in the air, gathering in the room that Jinshin resided in and slowly moving about. The blank scroll really did possess a mysterious energy. It had been awakened by the fragments of the mysteries of the world in Jinshin's head and was currently evolving the mysteries of the world in a strange manner. Jinshin closed his eyes tightly. He had already established a mental connection with the scroll, so he could clearly sense the mysteries of the world that had evolved from the scroll. Jinshin completely let go of his body and mind. He forgot about himself and entered a state of epiphany. At that moment, he felt like his soul had become one with the world. There was no distinction between the two, and the various mysteries of the world vaguely appeared in his head. However, they were hazy and unclear. In a room that was exclusively used to entertain important guests in Chang'an Prefecture, Baihai suddenly opened his eyes as he cultivated on the bed. With a slight sway of his body, he vanished from the bed. When he reappeared, he was already outside. His deep eyes shone brightly as he stared at Jinshin's location. My great-grandson is actually comprehending the mysteries of the world. He's about to break through, Baihai murmured to himself. His face was filled with an excited smile. He was extremely excited inside. As a saint ruler, he was obviously extremely familiar with the force of the world and the mysteries of the world. At such a close distance, Jinshin's comprehension of the mysteries of the world obviously could not be hidden from him. Baihai stared at Jinshin's room for a while, and his smile gradually vanished. He frowned slightly. Looks like it's not enough. My great-grandson's comprehension of the energy of the world isn't deep enough. It'll be rather difficult for him to break through to Saint Ruler this time. The blank scroll glowed with a faint golden light as it hovered above Jinshin's head. It constantly displayed the mysteries of the world while Jinshin's mind was drawn into a wondrous state. With the assistance of the scroll, Jinshin's comprehension of the mysteries of the world rapidly deepened. The secrets of the world became clearer and clearer in Jinshin's eyes. He was currently approaching Saint Ruler step by step. Jinshin completely lost track of time as he sank into the state of comprehension. After an unknown amount of time, Jinshin finally reached a critical point and touched the barrier to Saint Ruler. However, he suddenly discovered that the barrier seemed to be an insurmountable door that blocked his advance. No matter how hard he tried, he was unable to cross it. The scroll could only display a portion of the mysteries of the world. It was indeed a shortcut to Saint Ruler for those who had reached the sixth cycle of Heaven's Saint Master, but whether they could successfully break through would depend on whether they could comprehend the mysteries within. However, Jinshin's foundation was just too weak. His comprehension of the energy of the world had not reached the limit when he was a Heaven's Saint Master. So even after absorbing the fragments of the mysteries of the world, he was still unable to use this opportunity to reach Saint Ruler. This was because the fragments of the mysteries of the world within the scroll were not enough for someone who had just become a Heaven's Saint Master to reach Saint Ruler. The golden light around the blank scroll gradually dimmed. The mysteries of the world projected by the golden stripes slowly vanished as well. Without the assistance of the blank scroll, Jinshin slowly withdrew from his state of comprehending the mysteries of the world. He sensed the changes in himself. However, Jinshin was filled with reluctance. He was only a single step away from successfully breaking through to Saint Ruler. This was the supreme realm that he had yearned for a very long time. Chapter 676. The mysteries of the world from the blank scroll gradually dispersed, as did the invisible world force that filled the room. The opportunity to help a person break through to Saint Ruler was about to come to an end. A large group of people had gathered outside Jinshin's room. The patriarch of Chanyang Prefecture and his 4 aunts had all arrived. Even Chanyang, who preferred peace and quiet and did not want to join in the bustle, had hurried over in a wheelchair. Behind them were all the senior members of Chanyang Prefecture. Beside Chanyang Ba was a middle-aged man in violet gold dragon robes. Without a doubt, he was the most eye-catching existence. He was the king of the kingdom of Jessin. 2 whole days had passed already. Bai Yuntian had obviously passed on the news of the return of the ancestor of the Bai family to Bai Dao, who was still working in the imperial palace. As soon as Bai Dao heard that the ancestor of the Bai family and his genius nephew had returned, he could no longer sit still. He immediately requested permission from the king to return to Lore City. The king of the kingdom of Jessin obviously knew about the rumors about Jianshan as well. He already knew that his future son-in-law was already a Saint Ruler. When he learned from Bai Dao that Jianshan had returned, he immediately put down everything he was doing and hurried over as quickly as he could. It's already been 2 whole days. I wonder when my dear nephew will be able to break through to Saint Ruler. The king of the kingdom of Jessin stared unblinkingly at Jinshin's room as he spoke softly. He had been standing there ever since he arrived in Chanyang Prefecture a day ago. He had been standing there for an entire day and night. It's a pity that we don't know what's going on inside. It's even less likely for us to disturb Xiang'er for something so important. If it weren't for the fact that I learned from great-grandfather that Xiang'er was breaking through to Saint Ruler, I probably still wouldn't know about his situation. I hope Xiang'er succeeds and breaks through to Saint Ruler in a single stroke. Chanyang Ba also stared at the most luxurious building in the clan. He felt extremely nervous inside. Jinshin's actions had deeply tugged at his heartstrings. Xiang'er's talent is extraordinary. It's incomparable to ordinary people. I believe he'll definitely succeed, said Jinshin's second aunt, Yu Fengyan. Her voice trembled slightly. They had all learned from Bai Hai that Jianshan was breaking through to Saint Ruler. Bai Yuntian, who stood beside Yu Fengyan, gently trembled. She had already clenched her fists tightly to express her nervousness and anticipation. She had also stood there for an entire day and night without closing her eyes. Sigh. I never thought that Xiangtian would have such accomplishments in just a few years. He's already far ahead of me, his senior. He's reached a supreme realm that even I can't catch up to. It's just far too unexpected. With such an outstanding descendant, why should my Bai family worry about not being able to prosper? A cold-faced, middle-aged man beside the king sighed emotionally. His expression was extremely complicated. He was Jinshin's uncle, Bai Dao. Behind them, the elders of Chanyang Prefecture all stood there nervously and eagerly. Not only did Jinshin's breakthrough to Saint Ruler affect the hearts of his parents, it affected the hearts of all the elders as well. Bai Hai currently sat on a bed with his eyes closed in an extremely luxurious room. Although he did not go outside to observe Jinshin's situation, he was still able to understand Jinshin's situation clearly with his abilities. Suddenly, Bai Hai's tightly shut eyes suddenly opened, and his face was filled with regret. He let out a long sigh and said, "Alas, it looks like it won't work. My great-grandson's foundation is too weak." This once-in-a-lifetime opportunity was placed right in front of him, yet he was unable to grasp it. As the blank scroll gradually stopped displaying the mysteries of the world in Jianshan's room, Jianshan slowly withdrew from his state of comprehending the mysteries of the world. The barrier that prevented him from becoming a Saint Ruler was growing further and further away from him. Sigh. Jianshan sighed in disappointment. He had already tried his best, but Saint Ruler was not so easy to break through. Even though he had fused with the fragments of the mysteries of the world and used the blank scroll to display the mysteries of the world as support, he was still unable to achieve the feat of reaching the heavens in a single step. At this moment, the space ring on Jinshin's finger suddenly shone with a weak, white light. Something unbelievable happened. The 3 snow-white beast furs that hid some sort of secret actually floated out of the space ring by themselves. At that moment, the 3 beast furs were no longer ordinary. They all shone with a weak, white light, forming an incomplete diagram in the air according to some sort of pattern. They radiated with a mysterious and vast presence. The presence seemed to contain the entire world. This presence, Bai, who was close to Jinshin, immediately sensed the presence from the 3 beast furs. He had once broken through to Saint Ruler because of the beast furs, so he had an extremely deep impression of the presence. This is the presence radiating from a beast hide. It's actually been awakened after being dormant for so many years. Fantastic, fantastic. With the help of the beast hide, my great-grandson's chances of reaching Saint Ruler will be much greater. Jinshin sighed. The regret on Bai's face immediately vanished and was replaced by great joy. Afterward, Bai immediately got off the bed and strode out of the room. He wanted to personally witness this sacred scene. In the blink of an eye, another half a day had passed. It was now afternoon, and the sky was clear and cloudless. The fiery red sun had already set in the west, but it still emitted endless rays of light, illuminating the entire world. The large group of people from Chanyang Prefecture remained where they were. None of them had left during the past day and night. They did not even take a single step. None of them rested, ate, or drank. At this moment, strands of 5-colored light appeared in everyone's line of sight. At first, it was very faint, so no one noticed it. However, as time passed, the 5-colored light in the sky became denser and denser. It had reached a point where no one could ignore it. Strange, why is there more color in the air? Everyone look, why is there suddenly a 5-colored light here? Immediately, many people began to cry out. Their voices were filled with curiosity and confusion. Heavens, everyone look! Look at the sky. Suddenly, a loud voice rang out, alarming everyone. Everyone could not help but raise their heads when they heard that. They saw that a 5-colored cloud had appeared in the cloudless sky at some point. What's going on? What's going on? Why did a 5-colored cloud suddenly appear in the sky? That's not a 5-colored cloud. It's called a 5-colored auspicious cloud. Legend has it that this cloud is an auspicious thing. Once it appears, it will definitely bring about great luck. The originally quiet Chanyang Prefecture immediately became lively. Whether it was the guards of the affiliated high school or the gathered elders, they all stared blankly at the cloud in the sky and discussed animatedly. Bai stood at the door and looked at the 5-colored auspicious cloud in the sky that was becoming denser and denser. His expression was filled with unconcealable excitement. He broke through. He actually broke through. Behind Changbo, who was dressed in plain clothes, also stared blankly at the 5-colored auspicious cloud in the sky. His eyes revealed a thoughtful expression. After a while, he seemed to have thought of something and was immediately overjoyed. He exclaimed, "I remember now. The 5-colored auspicious cloud in the sky is a derivation of the Holy King. It's the 4th young master. It's the 4th young master. The 4th young master has broken through. The 4th young master has successfully entered the Holy King realm." Ah, is this true? That's really great. Hearing that, the faces of the people of Chanyang Prefecture all revealed excited expressions. Their hearts that were tightly hanging finally relaxed. The 5-colored auspicious cloud in the sky became denser and denser, and the colors became more and more vibrant. The thick cloud covered a radius of 100,000 miles, and the entire world was dyed in a strange color. It was like a dream. Chapter 677. The 5-colored clouds blotted out the sun, slowly blocking out the light from the scorching sun. They spread out in all directions with the kingdom of Jessen at the center, enveloping a radius of 100,000 kilometers. The 5-colored light from the clouds was filled with holiness, symbolizing holiness. It dyed the entire region, causing it to no longer be as white as it usually was. Instead, it was filled with multicolored auspicious light, as if it was a world of dreams. Within a radius of 100,000 miles, everyone was stunned for a moment before they began to discuss. The discussion was very intense. Everyone was very puzzled by the sudden appearance of the five-colored, auspicious clouds. Then, all kinds of rumors began to spread from all directions. Some people said that the appearance of the five-colored clouds was an auspicious event, symbolizing peace and good luck. Some people said that the appearance of the five-colored clouds was a sign that a supreme treasure was about to appear. There were also some who said that the five-colored auspicious clouds appeared because of a certain peerless expert. There were even some people who believed that it was a sign of great calamity, saying that a storm of blood was about to descend on the Tianyuan continent. In short, everyone had their own opinions regarding the appearance of the five-colored clouds. However, there was one point that was indisputable, and that was that the sudden appearance of the five-colored clouds had caused a great disturbance in a radius of 100,000 kilometers. The news had even spread even further away at an unbelievable speed. On the Skyflower Mountain in the Kingdom of Jessen, 3 great elders of the Huayun sect, who were Heaven's Saint Masters, sternly stared at the five-colored clouds that enveloped the entire region. They remained silent for a long time. "Elders, what's going on? Why have the clouds suddenly appeared in the sky? What does this mean?" Saya, who had only become a Heaven's Saint Master recently, asked in surprise. She was extremely puzzled by the appearance of the five-colored clouds in the sky. The 2 veteran Heaven Saint Masters of the Huayun sect stared at the five-colored clouds with mixed feelings. After a long while, the 2 of them let out a long sigh. There was undisguised envy in their eyes. Someone has broken through, and it's not very far from where we are. From now on, the Tianyuan continent will have another saint ruler, sighed one of the great elders. Saya became stunned when she heard that. Saint ruler was a supreme realm that she could not hope to reach. At the very least, he understood that he would never be able to reach that level because he had only broken through to Heaven's Saint Master in his later years, let alone Saint Ruler, which was thousands of times more difficult than Heaven's Saint Masters. Another great elder stared deeply into the distance and said with mixed feelings, "The center of the five-colored clouds is not far from us. The expert who has just broken through to Saint Ruler should be within 10,000 kilometers." That's right. From the center of the five-colored clouds, it's indeed less than 10,000 kilometers away from us, or even closer. However, according to what I know, there doesn't seem to be anyone who has reached the 6th cycle of Heaven's Saint Master in this region. Who is this person? Recently, it's been rumored that the freak from the Chanyang Prefecture has already reached Saint Ruler. Although I don't know if he's really at that level or not, since the rumors are so fierce. Even if he hasn't reached Saint Ruler, he's not far away. He's probably already half a foot into Saint Ruler at that time. Do you think that the person who broke through is that freak from the Chanyang Prefecture? Although that's a little too exaggerated, his talent can't be described with common sense. Moreover, the center of the five-colored clouds seems to be where the Chanyang Prefecture is. What? Great Elder! You're saying that the person who broke through is Chanyang Shoten? Saya paled in fright as he stared at the 2 great elders in disbelief. His left hand subconsciously pinched the empty sleeve on his right. Saya remembered the events of the past unforgettable. He had been forced to cripple his arm under Jinshin's pressure. This was an eternal pain in his heart that could never be erased. The 2 great elders stared fixedly at the sky. One of them said, "I also don't know if the person who broke through is that freak from the Chanyang Prefecture." Saya immediately head to the front mountains and send disciples to Lore City to investigate. "Yes," Saya replied and immediately rose into the air, flying toward the Chanyang Prefecture with lightning speed. Far away in the Heavenly Eagle Kingdom, in the territory of the Flame, mercenaries, newbies, Jeditai, and Huang Tianba stood side by side on the roof of the palace, looking at the distant sky with deep eyes. Due to the distance, the five-colored auspicious clouds had yet to spread to this place. In fact, they couldn't even see any color in the sky. However, with their strength, they could naturally sense what was happening in the distance. Someone actually broke through. Who could it be? Jeditai asked curiously. The birth of a holy king was no small matter. It was enough to alarm people like them. That direction seems to be Jianshan's home. The location matches perfectly. Could the person who broke through be Jianshan? Nubi said with uncertainty. You're saying that the person who broke through is little brother Jianshan? Huang Tianba was shocked. He stared at Nubi's in disbelief. Nubi's words had shocked both him and Jitatai. However, Huang Tianba soon felt relieved. He chuckled and said, that makes sense. Although it's a little hard to believe, little brother Jinshan's talent is unprecedented. Moreover, he already has the combat power of a holy king. It's reasonable that he could break through. The 5-colored auspicious clouds persisted for 6 hours until the sky gradually darkened. Now, the sun in the sky had already set to the western horizon. Only a small part of its face could be seen. The remaining red clouds in the sky were exceptionally beautiful. In Chanyang Prefecture, Chanyangba and the rest were still gathered with a group of elders. None of them had left. However, unlike before, they were all filled with excitement. This was because they knew that the genius 4th young master of Chanyang Prefecture had successfully broken through the barrier of Heaven's Saint Master and stepped into the supreme realm of Holy King. He had truly become a Holy King. This made all the elders of Chanyang Prefecture feel extremely proud. This was because they knew very well what it meant for a clan to have a Holy King. Creak! At this moment, the tightly shut door suddenly opened. The white-robed Jianshan finally appeared in everyone's line of sight. Jianshan had a faint smile on his face. His eyes were as calm as still water. He did not look any different from before. However, if one looked carefully, they would notice that Jianshan's temperament was very different from before. In the past, he had shown off his ability and gave off the feeling of an unsheathed sword. Now, he had hidden all of his sharpness and became ordinary. He looked just like an ordinary person. Chapter 678. The moment Jianshan stepped out of the room, an invisible light seemed to shine from his body, illuminating the entire world. Before him, the world seemed to pale in comparison. In Jianshan's eyes, the world seemed to be different from before because he could see through many of its mysteries. He felt like he had truly become one with space. With just a thought, he could use spatial force to instantly move to another place. He could even control the space within a certain range to make it his domain. An extremely powerful energy vaguely roamed through the world. This energy was shapeless and formless, so it was impossible to see with the naked eye. Only the mind could sense its existence. It was the force of the world, which was even more powerful than Saint Force. The large group of upper echelons of Chanyang Prefecture gathered at the entrance all stared at Jianshan. All of them were extremely quiet, and no one said a word. They just stared at Jianshan quietly, as if they were admiring a supreme treasure. This was because the person standing before them was no longer as simple as the 4th young master of Chanyang Prefecture. He was a saint ruler who rarely appeared on the Tian Yuan continent, a person they might not even be able to see in their entire lives. Good. You really are a member of my Bai family. Great-grandson, your talent has shocked the world. With a descendant like you, why should my Bai family worry about prosperity? A loud laugh rang out from behind, breaking the silence. Bai excitedly strode over from afar. His gaze toward Jianshan was filled with gratification and pride. The group of people gathered at the entrance all turned around. As soon as they saw Bai walk over, they immediately parted to the side without needing anyone to say anything, making a path for Bai. Jianshan was also filled with joy. Successfully breaking through from Heaven's Saint Master to Saint Ruler this time had exceeded his expectations. When he had searched for the scroll in the space ring of the Saint Ruler of the sect of Dragon and Tiger, he had only wanted to observe it and see if he could find some help in comprehending the mysteries of the world. He had never thought of breaking through immediately. However, the fragment of the mysteries of the world in his head had actually awakened the secret hidden within the blank scroll, forcing him to enter a state of comprehension. In the end, he had used the 3 beast furs to successfully break through the barrier between Heaven's Saint Master and sainthood. Xianger, have you become a true Saint Ruler now? Bai Yuntian asked excitedly. Although she already knew the answer, she still wanted to hear it from her son. Jianshan looked at Bai Yuntian and smiled. Mother, I've lived up to your expectations. I've successfully broken through. Ha ha ha. Fantastic, this is fantastic. The son of Changyang Ba is actually a saint ruler. I never thought that Changyang Ba, would have such an impressive son. You've treated me well. Changyang Ba was extremely excited. He could not help but excitedly cry out. His voice was loud and clear, echoing through the entire estate. Even quite a few people outside heard his joyous voice. The king of the kingdom of Jesson was also excited. A saint ruler had appeared in his territory. This was a joyous matter for the entire kingdom, and most importantly, the saint ruler was his son-in-law. Having a saint ruler as a son-in-law was something that could not be obtained even if one begged for it. Even the 8 great kingdoms of the Tian-Yuan continent would be envious. Sigh, I never thought that my nephew would be so terrifying. He's still so young, yet he's already a saint ruler. Am I dreaming? Bai Dao murmured beside the king. When he saw Jianshan a few years ago, Jianshan was still a saint Kuan who had just condensed a saint weapon and had been forced to leave home under the pressure of the Huayan sect. Only a short amount of time had passed since then, yet the insignificant Saint Kuan had actually become a saint ruler in a single leap. He found this unbelievable. The news of the 4th young master of the Changyang prefecture breaking through to saint ruler was not covered up. It spread like wildfire, leaving everyone tongue-tied. Various magical beasts flew through the air in an endless stream. In just 2 short hours, the news had spread across the entire kingdom of Jesson, shocking all the citizens of the kingdom of Jesson. Before long, the king of the kingdom of Jesson announced that the entire country would celebrate this day. He declared this day to be the national day of the kingdom of Jesson, so that it would forever be recorded in history. The entire kingdom of Jesson congratulated Jianshan. The news of the 4th young master of the Changyang prefecture breaking through to saint ruler spread even further away at an even more terrifying rate. Very soon, it reached the neighboring countries of the kingdom of Jesson. The kings of the neighboring countries were all shocked when they heard the news, but they all passed down the same order. They immediately sent out envoys with great gifts to Lore City under the escort of Heaven's Saint Masters. Not only that, but all the large sects and clans within a 10,000-kilometer radius sent out important people as representatives to the Changyang prefecture with great gifts. The next morning, all the important people of the kingdom of Jesson gathered in the Changyang prefecture. Even the 2 great elders of the Huayan sect personally came with great gifts. Afterwards, the envoys from the various countries arrived in Lore City one after another. On this day, the Changyang prefecture hosted a banquet to welcome the guests from all over the world. Steward Changbo was personally in charge of the banquet, but Jianshan, who was the focus of everyone's attention, did not appear. While the Changyang prefecture was bustling with guests from all over the world, Jianshan, Bai Yuntian, Changyang Ba, and the king of the kingdom of Jesson were gathered together. In-laws, look at our and nephew. They're not young anymore, and they've been engaged for so long. It's about time for them to get married. In my opinion, we should choose an auspicious date to hold the wedding as soon as possible. The king of the kingdom of Jesson smiled. Now that Jianshan had truly become a saint ruler, the king was tempted to immediately hold a grand wedding for Jianshan and his daughter. Changyang Ba and Bai Yuntian both smiled and nodded because they were thinking the same thing. Although they knew their son was very outstanding, they also liked Yu very much. They obviously had no objections to the marriage between their son and Yu. Xiang'er, you and Yu aren't young anymore. Don't you think? Bai Yuntian probed. She also hoped that Jianshan would agree, because she also hoped that her son could marry Yu sooner. Xiang'er, you're already a saint ruler now, and the Flame Mercenaries you've developed has become a great organization that reigns over a region. You've basically stabilized your footing. Don't you think you should hold the wedding with Yu? Changyang Ba advised with a benevolent smile. Jianshan grumbled inside. He gently sighed and said, Father, Mother, Your Majesty, my brother's limbs have yet to recover, and my sister's whereabouts are still unknown. How are we supposed to hold the wedding like this? Jianshan also understood that his marriage with Yu could not be changed, but he did not want to talk about personal matters right now, so he could only keep dragging it out. The The king hesitated when he heard that. In the end, he could only helplessly sigh. He knew that his daughter's wedding with Jianshan would probably have to be pushed back again. This was because Jianshan's words made a lot of sense. Chanyang Prefecture's limbs had yet to recover, and Chanyang Mingwe had yet to return. It could be said that their family had yet to reunite, so holding the wedding at this time was indeed rather inappropriate. They did not continue to discuss the wedding after that. Jianshan chatted with his parents and the king for a while before leaving. Jianshan returned to his room and shut the door, locking himself in there. Jianshan sat on the bed in the quiet room. He studied the blank scroll and the 3 white beast furs. Ever since he became a saint ruler, the mysteries of the world were no longer a secret to Jianshan, because he could already grasp this power. As his abilities increased, he could clearly sense the secrets hidden within the blank scroll. No wonder this scroll can evolve the mysteries of heaven and earth. It turns out that the mysteries of heaven and earth hidden within this scroll were forcibly imprinted by a powerful expert. However, I feel that the energy of the mysteries of heaven and earth hidden within this scroll has become very thin. Could it be that every time it evolves, a portion of the energy of the mysteries of heaven and earth will dissipate? Until the energy completely disappears, this scroll will turn into an ordinary scroll. But why can't I see anything about these 3 pieces of animal skin? Jianshan murmured. He had already understood the secrets of the scroll, but he was still clueless about the secrets hidden within the 3 beast furs. Even though he had become a saint ruler, the 3 beast furs were no different from normal beast furs. He could not even sense the energy hidden within. Chapter 679. Jianshan studied the 3 beast furs for quite some time, but he failed to make any progress. The 3 beast furs had become as ordinary as they had been in the past. Aside from the special material, there was nothing eye-catching about them. Looks like I still can't see through their secrets with my current level of cultivation. Whatever, I'll just leave them there for now. Maybe I'll find out what secrets they hide in the future. Jianshan sighed with some disappointment before stowing the 3 beast furs away in his space ring. After stowing away the 3 beast furs, Jianshan lowered his head in thought. He murmured, I've already broken through to Saint Ruler, but I don't know if I've reached Class 7 as a Radiant Saint Master. I should go find my brother and try. Afterward, Jianshan got off the bed and directly made his way to Chanyanghu's residence. A grand banquet was currently being held in Chanyang Prefecture. The entire estate was filled with cheers and was extremely lively. As soon as Jianshan walked out of the room, his ears were filled with noise from the front courtyard. Jianshan had no interest in the noise in the front courtyard at all. He made his way around the back courtyard and directly made his way to Chanyanghu's residence. Greetings to the 4th young master. Wherever Jianshan passed by, all the guards and maidservants bowed to him. They were even more respectful than before. When Jianshan arrived in Chanyanghu's room, Chanyanghu was resting on the bed quietly with his eyes closed. He did not like noise, so he did not participate in the banquet in Chanyang Prefecture. Instead, he returned to his room to rest. Perhaps because he heard footsteps, Chanyanghu slowly opened his eyes. When he saw Jianshan standing by the window, he immediately smiled resplendently. He said, Brother, why aren't you with the guests? Why have you come to your brother's place? Big brother, I have successfully broken through. Today, I am here to see if I can restore your limbs, Jianshan said. Chanyanghu did not become too excited when he heard that. He looked at Jianshan with a smile and said, Brother, are you already a Class 7, Radiant Saint Master? Jianshan shook his head gently. I don't know either. I can't sense the level of a Radiant Saint Master myself. I can only determine it based on the strength of the Radiant Saint force I control. Brother, just lie there and let me see if you can recover. Jianshan slowly closed his eyes and fused with the world. He used his mind to communicate with the Radiant Saint force in the surroundings, causing it to rapidly gather towards him. Jianshan condensed Radiant Saint force very quickly. In just a few seconds, the Radiant Saint force in his hands had reached the limit. The gentle white light was as dazzling as the sun, illuminating the entire room. As Jianshan slowly lowered his hands, The dense radiant saint force slowly enveloped Chanyang, whose entire body. Chapter 680. The quiet room was filled with a gentle, milky white light. Although the light was bright, it was extremely gentle, not dazzling at all. At the same time, one could clearly sense a sacred presence within the milky white light. A transparent barrier had quietly appeared around the small attic, causing the space around the attic to distort slightly. The vision inside also became blurry, and the milky white light that burst out from the attic was completely isolated by the barrier. It couldn't spread out at all, so naturally, no one would be able to notice this scene. Doing something like this was only Jianshan's instinct. Perhaps he had already become accustomed to hiding his identity as a radiant saint master. So even though he was a saint ruler now and possessed quite a powerful force, he still did not want to reveal his identity as a radiant saint master. The guards outside the room stared at the barrier around the room in admiration. They obviously knew that this was all the actions of the fourth young master of their Chanyang prefecture, so they did not make a fuss. They did not worry about Chanyang's comfort at all. Bai Yuntian, who was chatting with a few esteemed guests at a banquet with Chanyang Ba in Chanyang prefecture, stared in Chanyang's direction deeply. As a radiant saint master, she could obviously sense the extremely powerful radiant saint master aura from that direction. Looks like Xiang'er is in a hurry to heal a Hu. He's actually in such a hurry to heal a Hu. I wonder if he's reached class 7 as a radiant saint master, thought Bai Yuntian. She had already known that her son was a radiant saint master long ago. Although Jianshan had never told anyone, Bai Yuntian could clearly sense how he had used radiant saint force in Chanyang prefecture. Inside the pavilion, it had become a snow-white world. Apart from the white, there was nothing else that could be seen. It was as if a thick fog had covered everything in front of him. It was so white that he couldn't even see his own fingers. Jianshan was already doing his best to control the holy light force. The radiant saint force was filled with vitality. As he bathed in such dense, radiant saint force, Chanyang who felt an indescribable sense of pleasure. It was extremely comfortable, making him feel like he was floating. This lasted for 10 whole minutes before the radiant saint force that filled the room gradually dimmed. In the end, it slowly vanished, and the pavilion returned to its original state. Jianshan stopped controlling radiant saint force. He stared blankly at Chanyang who was lying on the bed with his eyes closed in enjoyment. His hands that hovered above Chanyang who fell powerlessly. His brother, Chanyang who, still had no limbs. None of his severed limbs had grown back. Jianshan tried his best to channel radiant saint force into Chanyang who, but it was completely ineffective. Why is it like this? Haven't I reached class 7 yet? Jianshan was extremely dejected. In the past, his level of radiant saint master basically matched his strength. Originally, he thought that after becoming a saint ruler and comprehending the mysteries of the world, he would successfully reach class 7 as a radiant saint master. However, only now did he discover that he was wrong. Chanyang who opened his eyes. He looked at his limbs that had yet to recover, but his expression did not change at all. He then looked at Jianshan and smiled indifferently. Brother, don't worry about me. It's actually pretty good for me to be like this. I'm actually still a class 6 radiant saint master. I haven't broken through to class 7. Why is it like this? Is the method to reach class 7 different from what I imagined? Jianshan murmured in a rather dejected manner. Brother, don't worry. Although you haven't become a class 7 radiant saint master yet, I believe that with your talent, you'll be able to surpass it sooner or later. It's only a matter of time. Chanyang who comforted him with a smile. Jianshan returned to normal very soon. The light in his eyes became determined again, and he said, looks like there's another way to reach class 7 from class 6. I have to find a way as soon as possible. Brother, I'll go ask great-grandfather right now and see if he knows anything about this. Just bear with it for a few more days. Jianshan left Chanyang, whose residence, and directly made his way to Bai Hai's room. Only Bai Hai was the most senior person there, so he knew more than ordinary people. Great-grandson, it's rare for you to remember your great-grandfather. I had thought that you had forgotten about me. You've finally come to visit your great-grandfather. Come, have a seat. Bai Hai smiled resplendently. His gaze towards Jianshun was filled with affection, pride, and pride. Great-grandfather, have you gotten used to living here? Jianshun asked with a smile. He directly walked over to a chair and sat down obediently. Bai Hai sat down across from Jianshun. He looked at Jianshun affectionately and nodded. Good, good, good. I've even lived in a dark cave for several decades. The conditions here are so good, so how can I not get used to it? Bai Hai paused before continuing. Great-grandson, your great-grandfather has been a saint ruler for quite some time now. My understanding of this realm of cultivation is far greater than yours. You've only just reached this level of cultivation, so if you come across any questions, you can come find me at any time. Great-grandfather, I just happen to have something that I want to ask you about. May I ask if you know anything about Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters? Jianshun stared at Bai Hai closely. Bai Hai frowned slightly when he heard that. After a moment of thought, he said, Your great-grandfather has traveled the continent before, so I do know a little about Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters. Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters are extremely rare on the Tianyuan continent. Even if all the Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters on the continent were added together, they would still be as rare as a phoenix feather. Great-grandson, may I ask why you've suddenly become interested in Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters? Bai Hai looked at Jianshun in doubt. Jianshun thought about it for a while before slowly extending his hand. A ball of milky white light rapidly formed in his hand. Jianshun did not choose to hide his identity as a Radiant Saint Master from his great-grandfather because he knew that he might be able to obtain even more information from his great-grandfather if he revealed it to him. Bai Hai became tongue-tied when he saw the ball of milky white light in Jianshun's hand. Disbelief filled his face as he stared at Jianshun in shock. He stammered, This is actually Radiant Saint Force. Great-grandson, why you? Great-grandfather, not only am I a fighter, but I'm also a Radiant Saint Master. A rare sliver of pride appeared on Jianshun's face when he saw how shocked Bai Hai was. Bai Hai sucked in a deep breath and stared at Jianshun like he was looking at a monster. He said, Since ancient times, Radiant Saint Masters have not been able to cultivate Saint Force, and fighters who can cultivate Saint Force have never been able to control Radiant Saint Force. It's impossible for the two to exist at the same time. I never thought that not only were you a fighter who had comprehended the mysteries of the world and reached Saint Ruler, but you also possessed the ability to control Radiant Saint Force. This is just too unbelievable. If it weren't for the fact, I would never have believed that fighters and Radiant Saint Masters could exist at the same time. I've really learned something today. Great-grandfather, I'm already a Class 6 Radiant Saint Master. May I ask how I can break through to Class 7? Great-grandfather is very knowledgeable, so do you have any ideas? Jianshun asked. With that, Bai Hai glanced at Jianshun in surprise again. He sighed emotionally. Class 6 Radiant Saint Master is basically equivalent to Saint Rulers on the Tianyuan continent. I never thought that not only were you a Radiant Saint Master, but you've even reached Class 6. It's unbelievable. However, reaching Class 7 won't be so easy because only the Holy Emperor's Empire has the ability to break through to Class 7. The Holy Emperor's Empire? Why'd I have to go there? Jianshun was puzzled. He could not figure it out no matter how hard he thought about it. Radiant Saint Masters are completely innate. It's impossible for them to become Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters through cultivation. However, if you rely on yourself, it's impossible for you to reach Class 7 with your own strength no matter how great your potential as a Radiant Saint Master is. According to what I know, Radiant Saint Masters need a special Saint Artifact to reach Class 7. Only with the assistance of the Saint Artifact can they reach Class 7. This Saint Artifact is unique on the Tianyuan continent, and it just happens to be in the possession of the Holy Emperor's Empire, Bai Hai explained. In other words, if I want to become a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master, I need to go to the Holy Emperor's Empire and use the Saint Artifact to break through? Jianshun asked. Correct. However, the Saint Artifact of the Holy Emperor's Empire can't be used by just anyone because it requires a huge price to be paid every time it's used. At the same time, it can't allow all Class 6 Radiant Saint Masters to successfully reach Class 7. Whether or not they can successfully break through depends on the person's potential. Baihai stared at Jianshan deeply and sincerely said, "Great-grandson, you better give up on this idea. You're not a member of the Holy Emperor's Empire, nor are you a core member of the Radiant Saint Master Union. They won't give you this opportunity because the Saint artifact can't be used at any time. It's just like the Radiant Saint Master Union of Mercenary City. It's only opened once in a while, and it requires a huge price to be paid every time." Chapter 681. Baihai thought for a while when he saw Jianshan remain silent. He then said, "Great-grandson, I know you want to reach Class 7 in such a hurry because you want to heal your brother's severed limbs, but you can choose something else. You can spend some money to invite a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master from the Holy Emperor's Empire to heal your brother. Although Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters are extremely rare on the Tianyuan continent, the Empire of the Holy Emperor is a place where Radiant Saint Masters gather, as well as the place where Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters emerge. With your current status, you still have the right to meet those esteemed Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters. Moreover, don't you know the Grand Elder of Mercenary City? The Grand Elder is a supreme existence on the Tianyuan continent. No one dares to disrespect him. Even if you can't invite them, you can invite the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. If he's willing to help you, inviting a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master will be a piece of cake. Perhaps there are Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters among the guest elders of Mercenary City." Jianshan gently shook his head. "No, great-grandfather. Since I'm a Radiant Saint Master and I've reached Class 6, I need to find a way to reach Class 7 as a Radiant Saint Master. I need to reach the limit of what I can do." Baihai nodded in praise. "Great-grandson, that's a very good idea. That's right. People need to have a fighting spirit. Only with a goal can you advance. No matter how difficult the path ahead is, you can't give up." Baihai paused and poured himself a cup of tea. He continued, "You may not be an important figure like the Holy Emperor's Empire, but with your terrifying talent, you'll be valued no matter where you go. At the same time, you have the Grand Elder of Mercenary City supporting you. With these advantages, I think the Radiant Saint Master Union of the Holy Emperor's Empire will make an exception and give you a chance to reach Class 7. Jianshan rejoiced when he heard that. He said, "If that's the case, it'll be much easier." Afterward, Jianshan asked Baihai a few more questions about Saint Ruler before leaving. He returned to the luxurious palace-like building that he lived in. Jianshan sat on the bed in the quiet and comfortable room. He seemed to have a lot on his mind. With a flip of his hand, a shining, violet medallion appeared. He could not help but think about how he had obtained the medallion a few years ago. "Kid, if you come to the City of God of the Holy Emperor's Empire in the future, you can find me with this medallion." Jianshan stared at the medallion in his hand in a daze. He said in surprise, "I never thought that this medallion would actually contain an extremely obscure strand of world force. If I hadn't reached Saint Ruler, I really wouldn't have been able to sense it. Just who was the old man who gave me this medallion all those years ago?" Jianshan was filled with curiosity. He murmured, "Looks like it's time for me to make a trip to the Holy Kingdom. Fourth young master, the third young master wishes to see you." At this moment, a maid's voice rang out from outside the door. Jianshan was slightly surprised. "It's actually third brother. Why is he looking for me?" After a moment of silence, Jianshan put away the medallion and said, "Let him in." "Yes, fourth young master." The maidservant replied respectfully and then slowly retreated. Afterward, Jianshan also got off the bed and went straight to the living room to sit down, waiting for his third brother's arrival. Jianshan really didn't have a good impression of his third brother, who was related to him by blood. Since he was young, his third brother had been making things difficult for him in every possible way. He had been making things difficult for him in every way and had repeatedly tried to find opportunities to bully him. However, the results were somewhat laughable. Not only had he failed to bully his third brother once, he had instead been bullied countless times by his younger brother, who was publicly known as a cripple. Jianshan sat at the table and leisurely drank tea. Soon, a gentle and refined young man in a white robe walked in from outside accompanied by a young girl. The young man was elegant handsome and confident. His body was filled with the rare aura of a scholar. He lacked some of the steel-blooded resoluteness, so he looked a little weak. Jianxun stared at the young man indifferently. He had not seen his third brother for quite some time now. Compared to a few years ago, his third brother had changed drastically, both in terms of appearance and bearing. Chan Yongku immediately became rather restrained after being stared at by Jianxun. He also felt uneasy inside. In his eyes, this young man who was around his age was definitely not as simple as his fourth brother. Instead, he was a supreme saint ruler who could destroy the world with a wave of his hand. Fourth young master, I've brought the third young master. The maid looked at Jianxun in admiration and bowed slightly. Jianxun waved his hand and gestured for the maid to leave. He stared at Chan Yongku indifferently. Brother. Chan Yongku became even more restrained after being stared at by Jianxun like that. He was extremely nervous as well. He could still remember how he had opposed Jianxun in the past. Now that Jianxun had become a saint ruler, Chan Yongku felt rather afraid. He was afraid that Jianxun would bring up the past to make things difficult for him. Jianxun smiled when he saw how nervous Chan Yongku was. He took the initiative to break through the awkward situation and said, "Third brother, what brings you here today? It's rare for you to come here, so sit. Don't just stand there." With that, Jianxun took the initiative to pour a cup of water for Chan Yongku. Chan Yongku immediately let out a sigh of relief. He wiped away the cold sweat on his forehead before sitting down across from Jianxun in a rather restrained manner. After a moment of hesitation, he gathered his courage and said, "Brother, I've actually come here today to apologize." Apologize? Apologize for what? Jianxun stared at Chan Yongku in confusion. He was confused. Jianxun laughed involuntarily. He waved his hand indifferently and said, "So that's what you're talking about. Third brother, let's not talk about those things from our childhood anymore. I've long forgotten about them. They were born from the same roots, so there was no need to destroy each other so quickly." Although Jianxun was extremely dissatisfied with what his third brother had done in the past, they were still family after all. They were all brothers, so he would not fall out with his third brother over those trivial matters. After all, his third brother had not done anything unforgivable. Moreover, his third brother had taken the initiative to apologize, which was enough to show his sincerity. If Jianxun continued to argue, he would seem petty. Chapter 682. Today, Chan Yongku had come to apologize to Jianxun of his own accord, completely erasing all the unpleasant matters from the past. This made Jianxun feel rather gratified. Jianxun spent 3 days in Chanyang Prefecture. He basically spent all of those 3 days in Chanyang Prefecture, only visiting Kin-san and his mother, who owned an inn in Lore City. Kin-san's situation made Jianxun even more determined to become a Class 7 Radiant Saint Master as soon as possible. This was because he had already learned the method to allow Qin Xiaosan to regain the ability to cultivate after his saint weapon had been destroyed. It was to reach Class 7. Only Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters could allow a cripple to regain the ability to cultivate after his saint weapon had been destroyed. Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters could bring the dead back to life. It was rumored that they could even bring the dead back to life, which demonstrated the power of Class 7 Radiant Saint Masters. It was obviously not difficult for them to heal a crippled person. 3 days later, a large group of people from Chanyang Prefecture and the king of the Kingdom of Jessen gathered in the courtyard of Chanyang Prefecture. They formed a circle around Jianxun, all of them looking at Jianxun with reluctance. This was because Jianxun would be leaving Chanyang Prefecture today, so they had all come to send him off. "Xianger, you've always been so tired recently. Once you're done with your matters, you have to stay at home for a few more days," Bai Yuntian said to Jianxun reluctantly. "Xianger, just leave these small matters to your subordinates. There's no need for you to tire yourself out," said Chanyang Ba. "Oh, Xiangtian." The group of old people from Chanyang Prefecture and the king of the Kingdom of Jessen all said some words of concern. They seemed to care about Jianxun very much. Jianxun was a saint ruler, but he did not become arrogant because of this. He listened to them like a junior receiving the teachings of his seniors, constantly nodding in agreement. At this moment, Yu Fengyin went up and grabbed Jinshan's hands. She pleaded, Xiang'er, there's still no news of your sister. We don't even know if she's dead or alive. Xiang'er, you've already gained control of a great force, so I hope you can put in some effort to find your sister. She's my only daughter. Jinshan immediately became stern. He stared at his aunt sternly and promised, Don't worry, Aunt. I'll do everything I can to find my sister. Jinshan had always been worried about his sister's disappearance. When he was young, the only person who cared about him the most in Changyang Prefecture was his sister, Changyang Mingyue, aside from his mother by Yintian. Changyang Mingyue cared about Jinshan even more than his father, Changyang Ba. Xiang'er, I don't have to worry anymore with your words. I just hope that Mingyue can return to my side safely as soon as possible. Yu Fengyin's complexion was very ugly. She felt extremely sad and pained inside because she had already prepared for the worst. She just had not confirmed it yet. Jinshan left with his great-grandfather by Hai after bidding farewell to the people of Changyang Prefecture. He had only come back this time to confirm by Hai's identity. There were still many matters with the flame mercenaries that needed to be dealt with, so Jinshan could not waste too much time. Jinshan originally wanted Bai Hai to remain in Changyang Prefecture, but Bai Hai had already become accustomed to the peaceful days. He was not used to the noisy environment of Changyang Prefecture, so he left with Jinshan for the flame mercenaries. There were still a few saint rulers there, so he could find someone to talk to if he was bored. Jinshan and Bai Hai walked side by side. They used spatial force to travel at an altitude of 10,000 meters, quickly making their way to where the flame mercenaries were. In the palace of the Qin Huang Kingdom, the king of the Qin Huang Kingdom was casually sitting on the dragon throne. Below him stood a young man in silver-white armor. Wu Jian, weren't you in the kingdom of Jessin? Why have you come back? You look exhausted, so you must be tired from the journey. Has something important happened in the kingdom of Jessin? The king of the Qin Empire smiled. He spoke in an amiable manner. Your Majesty, I do indeed have something extremely important to report to your Majesty this time. A few days ago, Imperial Protector Jinshan successfully broke through to Heaven's Saint Master and reached Saint Ruler. There was a slight smile on the tired face of the young man in silver armor. It was obvious that he was filled with joy. What? Jinshan has successfully become a Saint Ruler? The king suddenly stood up and stared at the young man in disbelief. Yes, your Majesty. Jinshan, Imperial Protector, has indeed become a Saint Ruler. He's accompanied by 5-colored clouds that blots out the sun, covering a radius of 100,000 kilometers. It's caused a great disturbance in that region. The young man paused slightly before continuing. Moreover, Jinshan, Imperial Protector, has suddenly gained a great-grandfather. He's a Saint Ruler. The king of the Qin Empire did not care about the fact that Jinshan had gained a great-grandfather. He had been completely shocked by Jinshan becoming a Saint Ruler. How is this possible? Jinshan has actually become a Saint Ruler already. That's just unbelievable. Just how old is he right now? The king murmured in a daze. His heart churned, and he was unable to remain calm. He had already been shocked when Jinshan became a Heaven Saint Master before the age of 50. Now, he had become a Saint Ruler in just a few years. His rate of improvement was truly shocking. I'll immediately report this to the esteemed Imperial Protector. The king did not dare to hesitate at all. He immediately left and hurried toward the Qin Heaven Hall. Not long after the king dared to leave, another tall and sturdy middle-aged man, wearing a set of golden armor, walked in from outside. Oh, so it's Sir Ao Duo, the guard commander of the Imperial Palace. Could it be that Sir Ao Duo has something to report to His Majesty? Seeing this middle-aged man, Qin Wujian immediately revealed a friendly smile. Qin Wujian, so it's you. Didn't you go to the kingdom of Jessin with the Imperial Protector? Have the three of you returned from there? Ao Duo clearly had a good relationship with Qin Wujian, so he asked in surprise. Qin Wujian shook his head. That's not the case. I've come back this time because I have something important to report to His Majesty. I won't be staying in the Imperial Palace for long. What about you, Ao Duo? Do you have something important to report? According to what I know, being the commander of the Imperial Guards is an extremely easy job because nothing has happened in the Imperial Palace for several hundred years. Ao Duo gradually became rather stern. That's right. The imperial palace has indeed been peaceful for several hundred years, but it's different now. Recently, I've been constantly receiving reports from my subordinates that people have been disappearing for no reason. These people include palace maids, eunuchs, and even several dozen of my guards have gone missing, including an Earth Saint Master Captain. They seem to have evaporated into thin air. We can't find their whereabouts, no matter what we do with our strength. Don't you think that's strange? What? There's such a strange thing? Qin Wujian's face was filled with shock. He frowned slightly and muttered to himself for a moment before saying, "It's not hard to explain why such a thing happened. However, it would be understandable if such a thing happened in other small countries. However, it actually happened in the heavily guarded imperial palace of our Qinhuang Empire. This is somewhat inconceivable. There are 4 imperial protectors in the imperial palace. Even the slightest movement of leaves in the wind will not escape the 4 elders. Yes, I also find it strange. I've been investigating this matter for several days without any results, so I have no choice but to report to His Majesty," Ao Duo said in a deep voice. "Unfortunately, you're a little late. His Majesty has just left for the Qin Heaven Palace. Ao Duo, you should wait for a while." Inside a majestic Qin Heaven Hall in the Imperial Palace, the 4 most respected Imperial protectors were gathered around a large square table. Not far away, the king of the Qinhuang Kingdom had already lost his usual majesty. He was standing there with a respectful expression. "Is what you said true? Jianchen has really broken through to Saint Ruler?" An Imperial protector asked sternly. Clearly, he cared about this matter very much. The king replied politely, "Imperial Protector, this is news brought back by Qin Wujian, who is stationed in the Kingdom of Jessen. He is extremely certain that Jianchen has already become a saint ruler." At the same time, there were 5-colored auspicious clouds in the sky, covering a radius of 100,000 kilometers. Since 5-colored auspicious clouds have appeared, there must be a saint ruler. "Looks like Jianchen really has broken through to saint ruler," an Imperial Protector said. "But how old is he right now? He only participated in the martial competition in Mercenary City a few years ago. How has he broken through to Saint Ruler so quickly? That's just too shocking. He's not even 50 yet he's already become a Saint Ruler at such a young age. That really is unbelievable. Since Jianchen has already become a Saint Ruler, don't you think we should tell him about that matter? With his assistance, our Qin Empire's strength will increase by quite a lot. When Jianchen returned last time, he seemed to have a Saint Ruler and a Class 7 magical beast with him. That's a force that we need to pay attention to. In my opinion, we should indeed tell Jianchen about that matter. Perhaps we'll gain 3 more Saint Rulers." Chapter 683. Yeah, if 3 Saint Rulers join us, our strength will increase by a lot. I just don't know what kind of relationship Jianchen has with the 2 of them. Can we tie them up and bring them to our Qin Empire? Perhaps they don't want to get involved in this mess. The king to one side hesitated slightly when he heard the discussion of the 4 Imperial Protector. He carefully said, "For Imperial Protectors, I've heard that Jianchen has connections with the upper echelon of Mercenary City. Perhaps we should negotiate with Jianchen and see if we can use his relationship with Mercenary City to help us. Once Mercenary City stands on our side, I think we won't be facing any problems, and the people above us will view us in a new light." The 4 Imperial Protector shook their heads at the same time and rejected the king's suggestion without any hesitation. One of them said, "You don't understand Mercenary City. Jianchen's relationship with the upper echelon of Mercenary City is only a rumor. It might not be true, and even if Jianchen really does have connections with the upper echelon of Mercenary City will never help us. Yeah, Mercenary City might only be a city in the eyes of ordinary mercenaries, a place where mercenaries gather, but in reality, Mercenary City plays a role of protection on the Tianyuan continent that no one knows about. They will never interfere with any conflicts on the continent, much less assist anyone in the struggle for power. If a large-scale battle erupts on the continent, Mercenary City will even step in to stop it, so it's impossible for us to ask Mercenary City for help. It doesn't matter if Jianshan has connections with Mercenary City or not, said one of the Imperial Protector. Understand. Thank you for your guidance, Imperial Protector. The king clasped his hands politely. All right, let's end our discussion about Jianshan here for now. Immediately send a message to Jianshan after you return and tell him to come to the Qin Empire as soon as possible. It's time to discuss this matter with him, said one of the Imperial Protector. Yes, I'll immediately send someone to contact Jianshan after I return, Imperial Protector. I'll be taking my leave first. The king slowly backed away. Sigh, I never thought that Jianshan would already be a saint ruler. With his unbelievable speed, he'll probably only need 100 years at most to break through and reach a level higher than the Holy Emperor. One of the Imperial Protector could not help but sigh in amazement after the king left. His talent really is unprecedented on the Tianyuan continent. Jianshan's future accomplishments will be unimaginable. He'll probably catch up to Mo Tianyun in the past. I even suspect that Jianshan might not be the reincarnation of Mo Tianyun. If he successfully matures, he'll definitely become a figure on par with the Holy Emperor. It's been a very long time since a Holy Emperor has appeared on the Tianyuan continent. It's about time for one to appear. If Jianshan becomes a Holy Emperor, our Qin Empire will benefit greatly as well. We'll directly become an existence on par with the 3 great empires, or even greater than them. The 4 of us need to properly nurture our relationship with Jianshan. If we don't act now, it'll be too late. In the Qinhuang Kingdom's imperial city, in an 20 li away from the imperial palace, a naked middle-aged man was lying on the bed with his eyes closed. All of a sudden, the middle-aged man's tightly shut eyes suddenly opened. The moment his eyes opened, 2 visible rays of light shot out from his eyes like lightning, piercing 2 finger-sized holes in the wooden ceiling of the room. The middle-aged man sat up without warning. His fierce-looking face couldn't help but reveal a trace of a smile, but this smile looked full of malice. Jianshan, I finally know where you've gone. So you've been hiding in an obscure place called the Kingdom of Jessen. It sure is difficult to find information about you. The middle-aged man's figure gradually became blurry. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared from the room with the door tightly shut. In the imperial capital of the Qin Empire, a bare-chested, middle-aged man strode into a large grocery store. He directly tossed a pouch filled with purple coins onto the counter and said emotionlessly, "Give me the most detailed map of the Tianyuan continent immediately. Remember, I want the largest and most detailed one." The shopkeeper's eyes became green with envy when he saw so many purple coins. He hurriedly put away the pouch and said, all right, please wait a moment. I'll give you the best map right now." Before he had even finished speaking, the shopkeeper turned around and left. Very soon, he returned with a scroll that was as tall as a person. He said with an enchanting smile, "Sir, this is the most detailed, clearest, and largest map we have. It records most of the geography of the Tianyuan continent." The middle-aged man accepted the scroll and directly unfurled it. The scroll was very large, reaching 5 meters in length when it was completely unfurled. Mountains and rivers were drawn on it, making it extremely detailed. The middle-aged man's sharp eyes constantly moved across the map. A while later, a sinister smile appeared on his lips. He put the map away and left. After traveling for several hours, Jianshan and Bai Hai finally returned to the Flame Mercenaries. Just as the 2 of them approached the imperial palace, newbies, Jitatai, and Huang Tianba, who sensed their presences, had already hovered high in the air to receive them. "Ha! Jianshan, you really were the one who caused the disturbance a few days ago. I never thought that you would become a saint ruler in just a few days. It was already very difficult for me to suppress you when you were still a heaven saint master. Now that you've broken through, probably even I, the great newbies, am no longer your opponent." Newbies could tell with a single glance that Jianshan had become a saint ruler. He immediately laughed heartily, feeling happy for Jianshan. Jitatai, who stood beside newbies, stared at Jianshan with mixed feelings. He was extremely shocked. Although he had already guessed that Jianshan had become a saint ruler, he still felt deeply shocked when the truth was confirmed. He knew extremely well that Jianshan had only been an Earth Saint Master a few years ago, yet only a short amount of time had passed since then. He had actually broken through from Earth Saint Master to Saint Ruler at a shocking speed. It was just too unbelievable. Chapter 684. Jianshan, Huang, Tianba, newbies, and Jidatai exchanged some pleasantries before Jianshan introduced Bai Hai to everyone. He told them that Bai Hai was his great-grandfather without hiding anything. Huang Tianba and the others had already learned about the relationship between Bai Hai and Jianshan a few days ago, so they were not too surprised when they heard it. They only sighed and sighed, thinking that the world was full of wonders. Who would have thought that the two sides who had been enemies just a few days ago would actually have such a close relationship? Ha ha ha, it's great now. We're all on the same side now. Brother Jinshan's faction is becoming more and more powerful. Those regular hermit clans aren't the flame mercenaries' opponent anymore. Huang Tianba laughed aloud. He was clearly extremely happy. Jianshan also smiled when he heard that. He was clearly very satisfied with the current strength of the flame mercenaries. Let's talk about it when we get down. Jianshan called out to everyone before landing on the ground at the same time. Jianshan, Bai Hai, newbies Jidatai, Huang Tianba, Huang Wan, Huang Tianba, Jianshan, and a large group of people were gathered in a resplendent room. Huang Tianba had announced that Jianshan had successfully become a saint ruler, so all of Jianshan's friends knew about this. Brother, have you really become a saint ruler? Ming Dong could not help but ask first. He was filled with excitement. Jianshan did not deny it. He nodded with a smile. After receiving confirmation, everyone was first shocked for a moment, then immediately let out an earth-shattering exchange of words. Wow, that's fantastic. Brother, you're a hermit expert now. You're amazing. Bai Lian's face was completely red from excitement. Huang Wan and Yu, who were standing beside her, were also excited. They looked at Jianshan with eyes full of tenderness. This is just too unbelievable. Just how long has it been since the last mercenary competition ended? The mercenary king from back then has already become a saint ruler. This is just too unbelievable. Wang Yifeng could not help but sigh in amazement as he hugged the iron feather beast that had not grown up yet. Jianshan, the gap between us is getting bigger and bigger. It seems that it will be very difficult for me to catch up to you in this lifetime. Tai Tai bitterly smiled as he looked at Jianshan with mixed feelings. Back in Kargath Academy, his strength was not as great as Jianshan's, but the difference was close. Only a few years had passed now, and Jianshan had already become a saint ruler, reaching a level that even he could not catch up to. Even the honest Tai Tai found this hard to believe. Jianshan waved his hand and said, "All right, everyone quiet down. I have something important to announce to everyone. The person beside me is my great-grandfather, and he's also a saint ruler." These people were the people that Jianshan trusted the most, so Jianshan did not hide Bai Hai's identity from them. Moreover, letting them know that they had gained another saint ruler would increase their morale even more. The people who did not know much about Jianshan's background did not have much of a reaction when they heard this news. They only felt happy that they had gained another saint ruler. However, Yu, who was familiar with Jianshan's background, was filled with doubt. She was the only person present who knew a little about Changyang Prefecture aside from Jianshan. She was surprised that Jianshan had suddenly gained a saint ruler great-grandfather. Suddenly, Yu seemed to think of something. Her face became filled with surprise as she stared at Bai Hai in shock. She said, "Is this senior the Changyang ancestor who has disappeared for many years?" Jianshan shook his head. He stared at Yu and said, I'll explain this to you later. Lian, come with me. Brother and great-grandfather have some things to say to you alone. All right. Bai Lian nodded obediently. She first glanced at the blue-robed Bai Hai suspiciously before following Jianshan into another room under everyone's curious gazes. Bai Hai went with them under Jianshan's signal. After the three of them entered the room, Jianshan closed the door with a wave of his hand. He then looked at Bai Hai and said, "Great-grandfather, this is my sister, Bai Lian. She's also a member of the Bai family. She has the blood of the Bai family flowing through her veins. She's one of the few remaining members of the Bai family. With that, Jianshun turned to Bai Lian and said, Lian, this is the ancestor of the Bai family. Why don't you greet him? Great-grandfather, Bai Lian called out in an extremely obedient manner. Her bright eyes were filled with mixed feelings as she studied Bai Hai. She had already learnt the details of her great-grandfather from Bai Yuntian. She knew that he had been missing for many years, but she had never thought that her brother would actually find him. A benevolent smile appeared on Bai Hai's face. His gaze towards Bai Lian was filled with gentleness. He had once lived alone in a dark cave for over 30 years, living a miserable life. Thus, he was very caring towards each of his descendants. Good. I never thought that I, Bai Hai, would have another great-granddaughter, and one with a rarely seen cultivation physique at that. Not bad. Looks like even the heavens are helping our Bai family prosper. Before long, our Bai family will be able to return to its former glory. Bai Hai laughed heartily. He was extremely excited. Great-granddaughter, your brother has already become a saint ruler. There's no need for your great-grandfather to teach you anymore. Just stay by your great-grandfather's side in the future. Your great-grandfather will personally guide you in cultivation. That way, you won't take any detours on the path of cultivation, and you won't waste this rare cultivation physique of yours, Bai Hai gently said to Bai Lian. However, to Bai Hai's surprise, Bai Lian actually declined his good intentions. She said, Great-grandfather, Lianer wants to stay here and help brother with a few things. I want to share some of the pressure. I don't want to leave. Lin, don't worry too much about the matters of the flame mercenaries. Don't let these miscellaneous matters affect your cultivation. Cultivation is the most important thing, because on the Tian Yuan continent, strength is everything. Just leave the matters on your hands to the people below you. There's no need for you to tire yourself out, Jianshun advised. Bai Lian firmly shook her head. She looked at Jianshun pleadingly and said, Brother, Lianer likes doing these things very much, so just let me do it. Don't chase me away. Lian, and you will manage the flame mercenaries well, and Lianer can guarantee you that I won't affect my cultivation. Jianshun was momentarily at a loss as to what to do when he saw Bai Lian's pleading face. He loved his sister far too much, so he really could not bear to force her to do anything she did not want to do. He could only sigh inside. Whatever. Since great-granddaughter has made up her mind, I won't force you. I'll stay here in the future. I'll teach you when I'm free. Bai Hai did not force Bai Lian. Things were different now. In the past, he had many descendants under him, so he would not purposefully care about any of them. Now, however, he paid extra attention to his 4 descendants. He had completely changed from his past attitude of indifference. Jianshun, Bai Lian, and Bai Lian left the room after their discussion. They then went outside to chat with everyone else. At this moment, Huang Tianba pulled Jianshun to one side and said, Brother Jianshun, old man wishes to receive your assistance with something. Jianshun chuckled. There's no need to be so polite, Senior Huang. Just tell me if you need anything. Jianshun will definitely do his best to help. Huang Tianba's smile had completely vanished. He looked at Jianshun sternly and said, I wonder if Brother Jianshun still remembers the Hongfu clan that old man mentioned to you before. Jianshun's heart skipped a beat. He could vaguely guess what Huang Tianba was thinking. He replied, Of course I do. The Hongfu clan is the enemy of the Huang family. Their enmity is so deep that it can't be resolved. If I'm not wrong, Senior Huang probably wants to move against the Hongfu clan. Huang Tianba didn't deny it and said, That's right. Our Huang family and the Hongfu clan have always wanted to eliminate each other to prevent future troubles. However, the strength of our 2 families has always been very close, and neither side can suppress the other. Even if we were to fight, we would end up with both sides suffering losses. In the end, the only ones who would suffer losses would be us. That's why the enmity between our 2 families has never been resolved until now. This time, this old man hopes that little brother Jianshun can join hands with this old man and eliminate the Hongfu clan in one fell swoop. Jianshun could not help but think about the ruler armament in the hands of a saint ruler from the Hongfu clan. He could not help but smile. Senior Huang's matters are my matters. At the same time, The Hongfu clan participated in the matter of the tungsten alloy mine, so they're Jinshan's enemies. Senior Huang, please don't worry. Jinshan will definitely assist you in eliminating the Hongfu clan. That's good. With Brother Jinshan's assistance, the Hongfu clan will no longer have the ability to contend with our Huang family. Huang Tianba laughed aloud. Jinshan hesitated slightly before saying, Senior Huang, I have a presumptuous request. I hope you'll allow it. Haha, there's no need to be so polite, Brother Jinshan. Go ahead, Huang Tianba straightforwardly replied. I remember that the Hongfu clan has 2 ruler armaments. One of them just happens to be a sword, and I have a special liking for that sword. I hope that Senior Huang can gift the ruler armament to me after this matter is over, Jinshan said. Chapter 685. Senior Huang, this one will listen to you regarding the matter of dealing with the Hongfu clan. When does Senior Huang plan to make a move against the Hongfu clan? Jinshan asked. Huang Tianba pondered for a moment before replying. As long as the Hongfu clan is not eliminated, my Huang clan will not be able to rest easy. Little brother Jinshan, in my opinion, the sooner this matter is settled, the better. I'm just worried that some unexpected variables might occur if we drag this out. If that's the case, then we might as well make a move now. With our current strength, dealing with the Hongfu clan won't be a difficult matter. It won't take us too long. Jinshan spoke, seemingly even more anxious than Huang Tianba. Huang Tianba's face was filled with joy as he nodded repeatedly. That's great. Then we'll leave now. Jinshan turned his head to look at the crowd and called out, Newbies, Jitatai, the 2 of you come here for a moment. Jitatai and Newbies glanced at Jinshan suspiciously before walking over with a heart full of doubts. How many times have I told you to call me the Great Newbies? Why can't you listen? Forget it. Who told you to have such abnormal talent? I, the Great Newbies, am magnanimous enough to not bicker with a brat like you. Speak. Why did you call me the Great Newbies here? Newbies said in a dissatisfied tone as he arrived in front of Jinshan. Hearing Newbies' words, Jinshan and Huang Tianba couldn't help but laugh. This Newbies really placed too much importance on the word great. Newbies, didn't you not enjoy the battle a few days ago? Why don't you come with us in a bit? We're about to fight again, Jinshan said. Newbies was a magical beast in the first place. Although he looked no different from a human in his human form, the battle lust in his blood could not be changed no matter what. As soon as he heard that there was going to be another battle, he immediately became overjoyed. He excitedly said, Your human world is just too interesting. I once stayed in the Cross Mountains for over 100 years and rarely found an opponent. Ever since I came to the human world with you, I've been fighting every other day. Now the great Newbies, have realized just how wise of choice it was to come to the human world with you. As soon as he reached there, Newbies seemed to think of something. His face slightly changed, and he said to Jinshan, Jinshan, I'll make it clear to you first. Don't find me any monstrously powerful opponents. I can barely deal with 6th Heavenly Layer Saint Rulers, but if my opponents are 7th Heavenly Layer Saint Rulers or above, don't blame me for abandoning you and running away by myself. Fighting experts like that is just asking for death. There's no chance of winning, even if I have a ruler armament. Towards the end, Newbies glanced at Huang Tianba, intentionally or otherwise. Huang Tianba chuckled. Newbies, the great Newbies, your worries are completely unnecessary. Our opponents this time won't be too powerful. They're 2/3 Heavenly Layer Saint Rulers. The only thing worth noting is that they have 2 ruler armaments. What? Both of them have ruler armaments? Newbies was slightly stunned. He subconsciously blurted out, Don't tell me it's the 2 old men who ran away a few days ago. Correct, it's them, Huang Tianba said. A relaxed smile appeared on Newbies' face as he said, That's not a problem. With their strength, I can deal with 3 of them by myself. However, they have ruler armaments. Those things are not to be underestimated, so we can't touch them. I'll be responsible for keeping one of them busy. The 2 of you can deal with the other one. That's great. As for the other one, I'll work with little brother Jinshan. Killing him will be a piece of cake. Huang Tianba was clearly extremely happy. The Hongfu clan that had an irreconcilable enmity with the Huang family was finally going to disappear. Not only could this allow the Huang family to live a carefree life, but also lifted a huge burden off the heart of the elder with the highest status in the Huang family. Newbies, this time you'll come with me and Senior Huang. Jitatai, you'll stay here and watch over things. Jianshin quickly assigned people. He did not allow Jitatai to come with them, because that would be completely unnecessary. Furthermore, Jitatai would have his hands tied against opponents with ruler armaments. He would not be able to display his full strength. Afterwards, Jianshan bid farewell to everyone and left with Huang Tianba and newbies. They headed straight for the Hongfu clan. Over 100,000 kilometers away from the Flame Mercenaries was a magical beast forest that spanned over 10,000 kilometers. Even on the Tianyuan continent, the magical beast forest could be considered a medium-sized one because not only were there many magical beasts, there were even quite a few Class 5 magical beasts. It was rumored that there were even Class 6 magical beasts that could rival human heaven Saint Masters in the depths of the magical beast forest. There were many kingdoms of various sizes in the surroundings of the magical beast forest. Large numbers of mercenaries would head to the outskirts of the magical beast forest every day to hunt a few low-class 5 magical beasts to feed their families. Of course, there were also a few Earth Saint Masters who believed themselves to be powerful who attempted to hunt Class 5 magical beasts in the depths of the magical beast forest, but without any exception, all of them returned safely and heavily injured. There was actually no one who succeeded. As for the Heaven Saint Masters, although a few of them had teamed up in an attempt to hunt Class 6 magical beasts in the depths of the magical beast forest, they all returned after a short while. They never set foot in the depths of the magical beast forest again, and they did not mention a single word about the situation in there. This was because a mysterious clan was hidden in the depths of the magical beast forest. The strength of this mysterious clan was enough to make all the Heaven Saint Masters who had ventured into the depths of the magical beast forest pale when they talked about it. This was because this clan, which did not have a lot of people, was so powerful that they could easily wipe out several kingdoms in the surroundings. At this very moment, in the deepest part of this magical beast forest, in a villa completely built with white marble, 3 old men were gathered in a completely sealed-off secret room. Chapter 686. A sliver of desire immediately flashed through the middle-aged man's eyes when he heard what the white-robed old man had said, but he concealed it soon after. He helplessly said, "Jean Tian, Jean Feng, I can only say that I'm extremely sorry this time. Jianshin actually has the support of the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. Even 2 ancient clans are his opponent, so there's no need for my puny family. Please forgive me for being powerless in this matter." The middle-aged man was the patriarch of the Yin family, as well as the only saint ruler of the Yin family. He was a peak 4th heavenly layer saint ruler, more powerful than either of the 2 saint rulers of the Hongfu clan. In law, there's no need for you to worry about Jianshin at all. Although I don't know how Jianshin is related to Jianshin, our Hongfu clan hasn't done anything else with him other than offending Jianshin over the tungsten alloy mine. I don't think this small matter is enough for Jianshin to become hostile with us. As long as the 2 of us can find a day to personally apologize, we should be able to resolve the unpleasantness from a few days ago and bury the hatchet. However, the one that really worries us is Huang Tianba. The enmity between the Huang family and our Hongfu clan has been accumulated from the previous generation. Although there haven't been any large-scale conflicts between our 2 clans in the past few years, there have been constant small conflicts in the dark. Both sides have suffered losses, so the enmity between the Hongfu clan and the Huang family is extremely deep. It's impossible to resolve it. As long as you assist us in destroying the Huang family this time, I'll give the dragon-slaying sword in my hand to you, Saint King Jean Tian said. With that, a meter-long and 2-finger-wide sword appeared in his hand. The entire sword was shrouded by a hazy glow, and only the blurry blade could be seen through the glow. The sword was covered in inscriptions, and, at a closer glance, the inscriptions were actually leaping dragons. They were filled with a domineering aura. The patriarch of the Hongfu clan was indeed tempted. After a moment of hesitation, he hesitated for a moment before rejecting the offer. He said, "The matter probably isn't as simple as you think it is. According to the information I've gathered, a girl of the Huang family was originally supposed to marry into the Huanggu clan, but the marriage was unilaterally canceled by the Huang family because of Jinshin's appearance. As a result, I feel like the relationship between Jinshin and the Huang family is even more complicated than you imagine. Our Yin family will definitely not get involved in this matter. Jinshin has the support of the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, and he seems to have some ties with the ancient clan. Coupled with his terrifying talent himself, Jinshin's talent, our Yin family doesn't dare to offend him. In-laws, the two saint rulers from the Hongfu clan became anxious. Just when Jin Feng wanted to persuade them, he was interrupted by the patriarch of the Yin family. Jin Tian, Jin Feng, there's no need to try and persuade us. I know extremely well what my Yin family is capable of. The relationship between the Huang family and Jinshin is complicated, and they even share a common enemy, so my Yin family will definitely not get involved. I've personally come today because I have something to tell the two of you. The marriage between our two families has been canceled. From today onwards, our two families will go their separate ways. The matters of your Hongfu clan will have nothing to do with my Yin family," said the patriarch of the Yin family. The faces of the two saint rulers from the Hongfu clan immediately became extremely ugly. They had never thought that not only would they fail to rope in the Yin family, but they would even cut off all ties with the Yin family. This was extremely disadvantageous for the Hongfu clan. "Yin Zhengnan, have you come to cancel the marriage today?" Jin Tian asked with an ugly expression. The patriarch of the Yin family sighed. His face was filled with helplessness. He softly said, "I hope you can understand. My Yin family still needs to continue." Jin Tian, Jin Feng, why don't the two of you get out here? Today, the enmity between my Huang family and your Hongfu clan will be completely settled. Suddenly, a loud voice pierced through the various obstructions and clearly rang out from outside. The powerful sound waves caused the entire room to gently shake. "That's that old bastard Huang Tianba's voice. He's actually come personally." The two saint rulers from the Hongfu clan became extremely ugly. Their Hongfu clan and the Huang family had been at a stalemate for countless years. They had never dared to engage in large-scale conflicts because they were similar in strength. Once they began fighting, neither side was certain of victory. Yet, Huang Tianba had actually come personally today, so it was obvious that he had found powerful reinforcements. He was extremely confident. "Looks like I've come at a bad time today," the patriarch of the Yin family said with some regret. He then left the room first. Outside the Hongfu clan's manor, the originally tranquil manor suddenly became lively with Huang Tianba's shout. Over 1,000 members of the Hongfu clan had gathered outside. They all raised their heads to look at the three people floating in the air and discuss spiritedly. Many of their faces were filled with fear. They're from the Huang family. The Huang family has come for revenge. The people of the Huang family have actually come, and they even call the two great elders by their names. They must be saint rulers, Jinshin said to himself. "Quick, report to the patriarch immediately. The ancestor of the Huang family has personally come. What's the point of reporting to the patriarch? Go invite the two great elders out. Pass down the order. The entire clan is on guard. The Huang family wants to declare war on our Hongfu clan. They must have sent a large group of people." The discussions of the clansmen of the Hongfu clan mixed with the orders of a few powerful people, causing the entire manor to become noisy. The people in the manor surged as all the experts hurried to the surroundings of the manor to prevent a large group of people from invading. Afterward, 3 figures flew out from behind the manor. They moved extremely quickly, crossing several kilometers in a flash. They stood before Jinshan, Nubis, and Huang Tianba. The 3 of them were the 2 saint rulers of the Hongfu clan and the patriarch of the Yin family. However, when the 2 saint rulers of the Hongfu clan saw Jinshan and the golden-robed Nubis standing beside Huang Tianba, their faces became extremely ugly. Looks like my guess was correct. Jinshan's relationship with the Huang family really isn't that simple. They've basically reached the point where they have a common enemy. The patriarch of the Yin family mumbled to himself. The patriarch of the Yin family also wondered inside. Jian, Chun, newbies, and Huang Tianba had come together, which only confirmed his guess. Huang Tianba coldly glanced past the three of them and sneered. Jin Tian, Jin Feng, the two of you were right a few days ago. The enmity between our two clans has lasted for far too long. It's time to completely resolve it. Huang Tianba looked at the patriarch of the Yin family and said, Patriarch Yin, do you plan on fighting alongside the Hongfu clan? With that, the patriarch's face slightly changed. He quickly distanced himself from the two saint rulers of the Hongfu clan and smiled. I've specially come to the Hongfu clan today to annul the engagement. I'm not fighting alongside you. Huang Tianba, please don't misunderstand. The matters of the Hongfu clan will have nothing to do with my Yin family in the future. The patriarch of the Yin family knew that the Hongfu clan was done for, so he spoke without holding back at all. He directly cut off all ties with the Hongfu clan. Little brother Jianshen, I've offended you a few days ago, and I know my wrongs now. I hope that little brother Jianshen can be magnanimous and forgive me for my stupidity. I will definitely come personally with gifts to apologize in the future, the patriarch of the Yin family said to Jianshen. The patriarch of the Yin family then said to Jianshen. His tone was tactful, and his attitude was extremely sincere. He had completely let go of his dignity as a patriarch. This was because as long as he could get rid of Jianshen's dissatisfaction with the Yin family, he was willing to take a step back. After all, he could not afford to offend Jianshen. Jianshen was not petty when he saw how sincere the patriarch of the Yin family was. He straightforwardly said, as long as Patriarch Yin doesn't interfere with today's matters and you promise not to become enemies with us in the future, we'll forget about everything that happened a few days ago. Chapter 687. The patriarch of the Yin family knew just how powerful Jianshen was, and his talent was unprecedented on the Tianyuan continent. His future accomplishments would be far greater than what the patriarch could imagine. As a result, he immediately tried to curry favor with Jianshen as soon as he had the chance. He would never let go of any opportunity to befriend Jianshen. Patriarch Yin, you're too polite. If Jianshen needs any help in the future, I might have to trouble the Yin family. Jianshen clasped his hand with a smile. Jianshen clasped his hands at the patriarch of the Yin family with a smile. He did not reject the patriarch's attempt to curry favor with him. After all, the Yin family was a hermit clan with saint rulers. Their strength could not be underestimated. Whether it was for him, for the Changyang prefecture, or for the flame mercenaries, maintaining a relationship with these clans was a good thing. It was definitely not a bad thing. Haha, it's no trouble at all. My Yin family is extremely happy to help little brother Jianshen deal with any matters within our abilities. The patriarch laughed from the bottom of his heart. He was extremely happy. Little brother Jianshen, I won't take up any more of your time. I just happen to have some matters to deal with in the Yin family, so I'll be taking my leave first. If little brother Jianshen has the time in the future, you're welcome to visit the Yin family. The patriarch did not stay for long. He left after bidding farewell to Jianshen. The two saint rulers from a Hongfu clan stared at the patriarch of the Yin family with sunken faces. They were extremely furious that the patriarch had cut ties with them at such a crucial moment, but they were also filled with helplessness. Jin Tian, Jin Feng, the conflict between our clans has already lasted for several thousand years. It should end today, right? Huang Tianba sneered at the two saint rulers from the Hongfu clan. A golden bow had already appeared in his hand. It was a ruler armament, the sun and moon bow. Jin Tian and Jin Feng ignored Huang Tianba. One of them looked at Jianshen and said, Jianshen, we have indeed gone a little too far regarding the tungsten alloy mine a few days ago. We sincerely apologize to you right now, and we hope that you will not interfere with the matters between the Hongfu clan and the Huang family. As long as you and this friend choose to stand by, we will gift you a ruler armament. What do you think, Jianshen? Jianshen sneered disdainfully when he heard that. He did not say anything. Seeing how Jianshen remained silent, one of the saint rulers from the Hongfu clan continued. Jianshen, if you're not satisfied with this reward, we can add another condition. In the future, Our Hongfu clan will do 3 things for you without any conditions, as long as it does not exceed our abilities. Are you satisfied with that? Haha, Jin Tian, Jin Feng, your actions have really broadened my horizons. I never thought that you would actually have thoughts like that, but I'd advise you to give up. How can little brother Jianshan be roped in by you just because of something so small? Huang Tianba laughed aloud. His gaze toward the 2 saint rulers from the Hongfu clan was filled with mockery. Senior Huang is correct. You 2 should give up on that thought. Jianshan agreed with Huang Tianba. The expressions of the 2 saint rulers from the Hongfu clan changed. They said, "What if we gift you 2 ruler armaments? As long as Jianshan and that friend stand by and don't interfere with the matters between the Hongfu clan and the Huang family." This time, the 2 saint rulers from the Hongfu clan had gone all out because they understood that if Jianshan and newbies worked together with Huang Tianba, they would have no chance of victory even if they had ruler armaments. Jin Tian, Jin Feng, cut the crap. Once we kill the 2 of you, the 2 ruler armaments in your hands will still end up in our hands. Take this, Huang Tianba sneered. Huang Tianba sneered. Next, he drew his longbow, and a gold-colored energy arrow quickly took form. Transforming into a golden beam of light, it shot towards one of the cultivators with lightning-like speed. The 2 saint rulers from the Hongfu clan knew that it was impossible to dodge the arrow of the sun and moonbow. They reacted quickly and drew their ruler armaments at the same time. The 2 ruler armaments shone with dazzling light in their hands as powerful ripples of energy caused the surrounding space to violently distort. Afterward, the 2 of them swung their ruler armaments at the same time and shot out 2 powerful beams of energy at the incoming golden arrow of energy. Boom! The golden arrow of energy collided with the 2 beams of energy from the ruler armaments in the air, erupting with a deafening boom. Powerful ripples of energy wreaked havoc in all directions, causing a violent gale to sweep through the sky. At the center of the collision, the space there had already been shattered. A fist-sized black hole had appeared, but it recovered in the blink of an eye. Every clash between saint rulers was earth-shattering. The powerful ripples of energy from the clash this time reached the villa below, immediately causing the ground to crack and many buildings to collapse. In the blink of an eye, the undamaged villa had become a mess. Great newbies, the 2 of them are similar in strength. You can keep one of them busy. Little brother Jianshan, you and I will kill the other one together, Huang Tianba said with some excitement. Huang Tianba's tone carried a bit of excitement. The enemy that had blocked the Huang clan's heart for thousands of years was about to be eliminated. This made him very excited. I'll deal with the one on the right. Newbies clenched his fists. In the next moment, there was a flash of golden light, and he disappeared from where he was, directly charging toward Jin Feng, who wielded a spear. Senior Huang, use your ruler armament to keep him busy. I'll go deal with him. Jianshan said to Huang Tianba before charging toward Jin Tian. Before he had become a saint ruler, he could already contend against 4th heavenly layer saint rulers. Now that he had become a saint ruler, Jianshan was eager to test his current strength. Little brother Jianshan, be careful of his ruler armament. Don't clash head-on with it. Huang Tianba could not stop him in time, so he could only warn his subordinates. The 2 saint rulers from the Hongfu clan became unprecedentedly stern. They glanced at the destroyed villa below and, as if they had a tacit understanding, they turned into blurs and used spatial force to quickly flee into the distance. You want to escape? It's not that easy. Newbie sneered. He then used spatial force to chase after them. Jianshan did not hesitate either. He also used spatial force to chase after Jin Tian. But since Jin Tian was stronger than him and his comprehension of spatial force was far greater than Jianshan's, Jianshan had been pulled several kilometers behind in the blink of an eye. Huang Tianba calmly stood where he was and slowly drew his bow. He directly shot out an invisible arrow of energy. The arrow was formed from world force, so it was formless. It was impossible to discover its existence with the naked eye. The energy arrow formed by the power of heaven and earth locked onto Jin Tian's aura. It seemed to have the ability to travel through space. It chased after Jin Tian at a speed faster than Jin Tian's. In an instant, it crossed dozens of kilometers and arrived behind Jean Tion. P.S. Students who are taking part in the college entrance exam, study well. Be at ease and look forward to passing the exam. Chapter 688. Sensing the invisible arrow that was about to hit his back, Jean Tion no longer cared about running away. He immediately stopped in his tracks as Saint Force surged from his body into his ruler armament, causing it to shine with a dazzling light. As the light shone, it even suppressed the scorching sun in the sky. At the same time, the boundless energy spread out in all directions, causing the world to tremble. It was as if space was about to explode from the powerful energy. Huh! Jean Tion suddenly bellowed out. The ruler armament in his hand turned into a silver-white streak of light as it swung down like a bolt of lightning, creating a 3-meter-long, pitch-black crack in the space before him. Boom! The ruler armament collided with the invisible arrow formed from the energy of the world, resulting in an explosion that was even more intense than before. Berserk shockwaves of energy filled the entire space, causing the space within a 100-meter radius to violently distort. After the blow, Jean Tion's face turned pale in the blink of an eye. A low muffled groan came out of his throat with difficulty, and his figure flew back uncontrollably. He had already suffered some internal injuries. Although he and Huang Tianba both possessed ruler armaments, the difference in strength was just too great. Moreover, Huang Tianba's attack was formed from world force, so it was not something Saint Force could compare to. As a result, Jean Tion had already suffered some light injuries from the first clash. Jean Tion's figure streaked across the sky like a meteor. He flew back several kilometers before gradually stabilizing. He looked at Huang Tianba, who was chasing from afar, with an ugly expression. His eyes flickered as he thought to himself, "The two of us are definitely not a match for Huang Tianba and the other two. If we continue to stay here, only death awaits us. Forget it. Where there is life, there is hope. Preserving my life is the most important thing. As long as I'm alive, even if the Hongfu family is destroyed, I can still rebuild it in the future." Jean Tion had already lost the will to fight and had thoughts of retreating. However, just as Jean Tion was about to use all his strength to escape, the space in front of him fluctuated slightly. He saw that Jianshun, who could also use the power of space, had caught up from behind and directly punched towards Jean Tion's head. Jianshun's punch was very ordinary, and it did not carry any energy fluctuations. It looked like a punch without any power. However, such an ordinary punch made Jean Tion's expression turn solemn. He did not dare underestimate this attack, because he could clearly feel that wherever Jianshun's punch passed, the surrounding space seemed to be compressed by a powerful force. Jean Tion didn't dare to be careless. The Saint Force in his body surged like a surging river in his hand. He sent a vast amount of Saint Force at Jianshun. He did not hold back in this attack and directly used his full strength. When the fist and palm collided, a muffled sound erupted. It was like a muffled clap of thunder resounding between heaven and earth. Violent energy waves erupted from the point of contact between the two people's fists and palms, wildly rushing in all directions. It was as if a gust of wind had appeared in the sky. Crack! The bones in Jean Tion's left arm shattered inch by inch. His left arm drooped down powerlessly. How is this possible? Just what kind of power is this? It's actually so powerful. Jean Tion stared at Jianshun in shock. His face was filled with disbelief. He could clearly sense that there was an extremely powerful force hidden in Jianshun's fist. Furthermore, it was a mysterious force that he had never seen or heard of before. This force was far more powerful than the Saint Force he possessed. As soon as the two of them collided, the surging Saint Force in his left arm was dispersed by this mysterious and powerful force. A cold smile appeared on Jianshun's face. He said, "Since you're about to die, there's no harm in telling you. At least you can rest in peace. This power is called chaotic force." "Chaotic force?" Jean Tion murmured. His face was filled with doubt. Clearly, he had never heard of chaotic force before. However, Jianshun did not give him any time to react. Chaotic force descended from every inch of his body, pushing the abnormal defensive power of chaotic force to the limit. He then swung his fist at Jin Tian again. Chapter 689. Brother Jianshun, be careful of the ruler armament in his hand. Don't clash head-on with the ruler armament. Huang Tianba's warning flashed through Jianshun's head, but Jianshun did not consider dodging the ruler armament. A sliver of madness flashed through his eyes as the chaotic knight in his dantian spat out a large amount of chaotic force, which all gathered in his right fist. He directly swung his fist toward the ruler armament. This time, Jianshun wanted to use his body to take on the powerful ruler armament because he was confident in the defense of the chaotic body. Moreover, with Jin Tian's strength of the third heavenly layer in the ruler armament, he was around the fourth heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. He was on par with Sidu Qing of the sect of Dragon and Tiger, but he definitely would not be stronger than a fifth heavenly layer Saint Ruler. Although an attack like that could injure Jianshun's chaotic body, it would not be enough to heavily injure him. Jianshun, you're courting death. Jin Tian sneered when he saw Jianshun actually use his body to take on the ruler armament. His eyes were filled with mockery because the ruler armament was so powerful that even sixth heavenly layer saint rulers would not dare to take it on with their bare hands, let alone Jianshun, who was far weaker than them. Bang! Jianshun's fist collided with the ruler armament, producing the sound of metal clashing. Jianshun's fist did not seem to be made of flesh and blood, but extremely tough metal. The fist and the king weapon separated as soon as they came into contact with each other. Both of them were bounced back by the powerful rebounding force. The two of them were also sent flying back by the powerful rebounding force. They were only able to stabilize themselves after flying 100 meters away. A vicious wound had appeared on Jianshun's right fist. It was so deep that his bones could be seen. Half of the bones in his fingers had been severed, and blood dyed his entire hand red. 100 meters away, Jin Tian's eyes were wide open as he stared at Jianshun's hand in shock. His face was filled with disbelief as he cried out, How is this possible? What is your hand made of? How can a human's body become so tough? I used a king armament, but it didn't cut off your arm. No, this is impossible. Jianshun could not help but sneer when he saw Jin Tian's shocked face. He glanced at his bloody right hand, and with a thought, the chaotic knight in his dantian immediately spat out a large amount of chaotic force, which then quickly flowed into Jianshun's right hand. At that moment, the extremely destructive chaotic force seemed to have transformed into life force with extremely powerful healing abilities. It actually healed Jianshun's wound at a faster rate than Radiant Saint Force. Although Jianshun's chaotic body already possessed very powerful healing abilities, Jianshun had discovered even more uses for the chaotic force after using it for so long. If he gathered the chaotic force around his wound, it would heal even faster. The wound on Jianshun's right hand actually healed at a visible rate. Whether it was the cracked skin or the severed fingers, they were all recovering. Even the blood on his hand seemed to come alive, shrinking back into the wound bit by bit. Jin Tian's eyes had widened to the size of bells as he stared at Jianshun's hand. This was the first time he had seen such an unbelievable scene in all his years of life. A few seconds later, Jianshun's right hand had completely healed. It seemed no different from before. There was not even a single trace of blood left behind. This is impossible. This is impossible. This is definitely impossible. Jin Tian's heart churned as he murmured in a daze. Even with his mental fortitude as a saint ruler, he was deeply shocked by the strange scene before him. While Jin Tian was in a daze, the space in front of him suddenly fluctuated slightly. An arrow completely condensed from the yuan qi of heaven and earth had silently arrived in front of him, directly piercing through his chest before he could react. Spurt! A finger-sized hole appeared in Jin Tian's chest, and it rapidly expanded. In the blink of an eye, it had become the size of a fist, piercing through his chest. Blood immediately gushed out of Jin Tian's body like a fountain, dyeing his clothes red very soon. A muffled groan mixed with pain came from Jin Tian's throat. His face turned pale in an instant, and his body, which was suspended in the air, swayed for a while. He almost fell down. Being struck by an arrow condensed from the energy of the world definitely did not feel good. Just the arrow alone was enough to heavily injure a mighty saint ruler. A gleam of light flashed through Jinshin's eyes. He knew that this was a perfect opportunity to kill Jin Tian. With a flash, he used spatial force to cross 100 meters and arrived before Jin Tian. His right fist, which had just recovered, was filled with surging chaotic force as he hurled it toward Jin Tian's head. Jin Tian was heavily injured, so his abilities were greatly reduced. Jinshin's fist seemed to have fused with space, striking Jin Tian's head with lightning speed. Bang! With a muffled sound, Jin Tian's head was struck, and his entire body was blown far away. His skull had cracked, and blood seemed to bloom in the air like a beautiful flower. Jinshin knew that it was impossible to kill a saint ruler as long as his soul was not destroyed, even if his opponent's head was shattered. Without any hesitation, he used spatial force to catch up to Jin Tian. He threw another vicious punch at Jin Tian's head. Slap! This time, Jin Tian's entire head was blown to pieces by Jinshin's punch. Blood splattered along with white matter, and Jin Tian lost the ability to float, falling from the sky. Looking at Jin Tian's shattered head, Jinshin finally let out a sigh of relief. Killing a saint ruler really was difficult. If Jin Tian had not been heavily injured by Huang Tianba's arrow, he definitely would not have been able to kill a saint ruler so easily. Jinshin's gaze landed on the ruler armament that was still in Jin Tian's corpse's grasp. He immediately grabbed it, and the ruler armament model flew out of Jin Tian's hand and into Jinshin's. Holding this thin sword that was about the same size as the light wind sword, Jinshin immediately felt like he had returned to the feeling of roaming the world with a sword. With a sword in hand, the world was his. Jinshin could not help but smile with joy. Now that he had finally found a suitable weapon, he was unable to suppress his excitement. At this moment, Jinshin's face froze. He immediately shifted his gaze away from the ruler armament he had just obtained and stared down with shining eyes. From the shattered skull, a faint white light suddenly floated out. As soon as the white light appeared, it quickly fled into the distance with lightning speed. So, just when the white light had just flown a few hundred meters away, a golden arrow chased after it from behind like lightning, directly piercing through the white light. Ah! A miserable shriek came out from the white light. Soon after, the white light quickly dissipated in midair. In a moment, it had disappeared into nothingness. Chapter 690. So that's how it is. And here I thought that saint rulers were the same as heaven's saint masters. As long as their heads are destroyed, their souls will be destroyed. Jinshin came to a realization. However, he was still rather puzzled. Why couldn't he sense the soul that Huang Tianba spoke of? Is it because the sword's spirits have fused with my consciousness, causing a change in my soul? Is that why I can't condense a soul? Jinshin secretly asked himself. Huang Tianba chuckled and said, "The souls of saint rulers are extremely tenacious. They're not as weak as the souls of heaven's saint masters. Just destroying their heads isn't enough to destroy their souls. It'll take a lot of effort. If we let Jin Tian's soul escape this time, he'll recover to his original state before long." Hearing that, a sliver of surprise flashed through Jinshin's eyes. He said, "Are saint rulers able to reconstruct their bodies with just their souls?" That's not it. Although saint rulers are powerful, they don't have such a terrifying ability. Huang Tianba shook his head and explained, "That's because the souls of saint rulers have the ability to possess others. They can forcefully take over the bodies of others and continue living in another form." Possess? I never thought that saint rulers would have such an ability. Hearing Huang Tianba's explanation, Jinshin gained a new understanding of the abilities of saint rulers. Huang Tianba's gaze landed on the ruler weapon in Jinshin's hand. He said, "This is one of the two great weapons of the Hongfu clan, the dragon-slaying sword. Legend has it that the original owner of this saint weapon used this sword to kill an azure dragon that had reached the peak of Class 7. It was stained with the azure dragon's blood, so this sword was called the dragon-slaying sword by its first owner. Little brother Jinshin, do you like this sword? Jinshin's gaze immediately landed on the ruler weapon he had just obtained. Perhaps it was because it had lost the saint force, but the dragon-slaying sword was no longer as dazzling as before. There was only a layer of hazy light covering the entire sword, making it look extraordinary. Through this hazy treasure light, Jinshin could vaguely see that there was indeed a dragon-shaped pattern on the 2 fingers wide blade of the dragon-slaying sword. It was very lifelike, and he did not know how it had appeared on it. Holding the dragon-slaying sword in his hand, Jinshin could not help but reveal a deep sense of joy on his face. Then his entire aura suddenly changed, instantly changing from an ordinary person to an unsheathed treasured sword, revealing its sharpness. At this moment, Jinshin's entire being had changed. It was as if he had completely turned into a divine sword, a peerless divine sword that pierced the heavens and earth. Huang Tianba's expression turned solemn. He could sense a soaring sword chi from Jinshin's aura. The sword chi was so sharp that even he felt shocked. Suddenly, Jinshin's arm trembled, and the dragon-slaying sword in his hand immediately produced a deep sword hum. The sound was like the sorrowful cry of an azure dragon. Afterwards, Jinshin rapidly swung his arm, drawing his sword at an unbelievable speed. The dragon-slaying sword in his hand instantly turned into a series of phantoms that filled the space in front of him. They were so densely packed that it was impossible to tell what was real and what was fake. What a fast sword, and the exquisiteness of the sword technique is something I've never seen before. Little brother Jinshin really is profound. I never thought that his sword technique would be so superb. Huang Tianba could not help but sigh in amazement. Jinshin slowly stopped after swinging his sword around. He stared at the sword in his hand in joy. At that moment, his excitement had reached its limit. Not only did the ruler armament, the dragon-slaying sword, make up for his awkward state of being unarmed, but could also endure chaotic force, allowing him to unleash his extraordinary strength. Although the combination of chaotic force and the chaotic body gave him great battle prowess, he was still a swordsman in the end. He was an expert with the sword. Only the sword could allow him to find his home. At this moment, a great rumble rang out from 10 kilometers away. Several mountains in the distance collapsed at the same time as a large number of rocks flew into the air. A powerful shockwave of energy swept over as a violent gale, causing Jinshin and Huang Tianba's clothes to flutter violently. Little brother Jinshin, rest for a while. I'll go assist newbies in killing Jin Feng. Huang Tianba called out to Jinshin before flying over with his bow. In the distance, newbies and Jin Feng were still engaged in an intense battle. Although they were equal in strength, newbies was a beast of antiquity. His battle prowess was completely on par with the 6th heavenly layer Saint Ruler. Even with the assistance of his ruler armament, Jin Feng was not newbies' opponent, so he had always been suppressed by newbies. At the same time, he had already been poisoned by the golden-striped silver snake's venom, which was rapidly spreading through his body. As a result, Jin Feng's face had already darkened. Old man, before the great newbies, it's useless even if you have a ruler armament. Prepare to die. Newbies laughed aloud. He did not take Jin Feng seriously at all. Chapter 691. Seeing Huang Tianba rapidly approach from afar, newbies laughed aloud. I don't need your help. I can deal with him by myself. Newbies suddenly shone with a dazzling golden light. Countless golden threads shot out from his body and shot toward Jin Feng with lightning-like speed. A portion of the golden threads wrapped around the ruler armament in Jin Feng's hand, while another portion wrapped around Jin Feng's body. It wrapped around him like a silkworm egg, completely restricting his mobility. Arg! Jin Feng let out an angry roar towards the sky. The saint force in his body surged out like a flood, attempting to break the golden threads binding his body. However, the golden threads were not ordinary. Not only were they abnormally tough, they were extremely flexible as well. No matter how hard Jin Feng tried, he was unable to break free. Old man, unless you have the strength of a fourth heavenly layer Saint Ruler, don't even think about breaking free from the restraints of my golden threads. In front of the great newbies, you don't even have the ability to escape. Newbies could not help but mock Jin Feng as he tried his best to break free from the restraints of the golden threads. Afterward, with a flash, he arrived before Jin Feng in an instant with the help of spatial force. His right hand formed a claw as it pierced through the golden threads and into Jin Feng's chest. He pulled out the bloody heart in Jin Feng's chest. Newbies' eyes flickered with a red light as he smelled the thick smell of blood in the air. The pungent smell of blood had gradually aroused the bloodthirsty nature of his bloodline. Newbies cruelly stared at Jin Feng, who was in great pain from the restraints of the golden threads. He tightened his grip and immediately crushed the heart in his hand. He sneered, "Isn't it painful? The great newbies have not killed anyone for who knows how many years. As the first human Saint Ruler to die in the hands of the great newbies, you should feel honored. Now, let me end your life completely." A ball of golden light suddenly appeared in Newbies' right hand. The power of the golden-striped silver snake had already gathered in his right hand. However, just as he was about to crush Jin Feng's head and destroy his soul, a soaring sword chi suddenly appeared in the distance. The sword chi was so sharp that it was rarely seen in the world. It was as if the surrounding air was about to become a terrifying gas with great destructive power. In the next moment, a loud voice accompanied by the soaring sword chi came from the distance. "Newbies, let me deal with him." The red light flashing in Newbies' eyes gradually disappeared. The bloodthirsty nature that had just been aroused in his bloodline also slowly dissipated. As a seventh-grade magical beast, although he couldn't change some of his innate characteristics, he was already able to freely control his own emotions. Newbies quickly returned to normal. He turned his head to look at the sword-wielding Jianxun, who was rapidly approaching from the distance. He couldn't help but reveal a trace of surprise in his eyes as he muttered, "Isn't it just a ruler weapon? Why does it feel like this Jianxun has suddenly become a completely different person? This aura actually makes even me feel shocked. Whatever, since you want to deal with this old man, the great newbies, will let you have him. Let me, the great newbies, see just how powerful you are with your aura." The golden threads binding Jin Feng were taken back by newbies, and Jin Feng regained control of his body. Without any hesitation, he immediately used everything he had and desperately fled into the distance. A cold smile appeared on Huang Tianba's lips as he said, "In front of my Sun Moon Bao, there has never been a Saint Ruler that has successfully escaped." Huang Tianba took off the Sun Moon Bao from his back, and a golden arrow condensed from Saint Force quickly took shape. But just as Huang Tianba was about to shoot the arrow, a soaring sword chi came from the distance. Jianxun, who was still several kilometers away, had directly slashed out with his sword. A meter-long sword chi shone with a bright black light as it shot towards the fleeing Jin Feng with unbelievable speed. The sword chi was completely condensed from chaotic force and contained an extremely terrifying power. Wherever the sword chi passed, the space there would be directly cut apart. This sword chi seemed to be able to pass through space. It was so fast that it completely surpassed Jin Feng's speed. Jin Feng had only escaped a few kilometers before the sword chi caught up to him. Then the sword chi pierced through his back like a hot knife through butter. Ark! Jin Feng immediately let out a miserable cry. Chaotic force was extremely powerful, and when the sword chi condensed from chaotic force passed through his body, a tiny strand of chaotic force was left in his body. At this moment, this tiny strand of chaotic force was wildly wreaking havoc in his body. In the blink of an eye, it had shattered all of his internal organs. His powerful Saint Force was actually unable to do anything to this tiny strand of chaotic force. No matter how hard he tried, he was unable to erase this strand of chaotic force. What is this power? Jin Feng's heart was filled with fear. This was the first time he had seen such a powerful energy in his body. In the past, he had never seen or heard of this kind of energy because the strength of this energy had already surpassed his understanding of the various types of energy on the Tianyuan continent. What power! This strike is actually no weaker than a fifth heavenly layer Saint Ruler. How has little brother Jianshan become so powerful? Even if he has a ruler armament, it's impossible for his strength to increase by such a large amount. Huang Tianba was extremely shocked. The power of Jianshan's strike had stunned him because he knew extremely well that Jianshan was someone who had just become a Saint Ruler. However, when Huang Tianba thought about how extraordinary Jianshan was and how he could not be judged by common sense, he relaxed. He stared at Jianshan with a complicated expression and muttered to himself in a voice that only he could hear, "Looks like the publicly acknowledged greatest expert of the Tianyuan continent will descend again soon. Little brother Jianshan has reached such an unbelievable level of achievement in his 20s. Aside from the city lord of Mercenary City, Mo Tianyuan, there's probably no one else with such talent on the Tianyuan continent." Newbies was also filled with shock. He stared at Jianshan in a daze as his heart was in turmoil. He had obviously sensed the power of Jianshan's strike. Even in his beast form, he would not dare to take the strike head-on. As a magical beast, he possessed a unique advantage. He was stronger than humans in many aspects. Newbies could clearly sense that there was an extremely terrifying power hidden in Jianshan's strike. Not only was the power extremely brutal, it was also destructive. With the terrifying instincts of magical beasts, newbies could even sense that nothing in the world could stop the destruction of this terrifying power. There's actually no record of this terrifying power in my inherited memories. Does that mean it has never appeared on the Tianyuan continent? Perhaps it has never been seen by a golden-striped silver snake. Now I'm becoming more and more suspicious about whether Jianshan is Mo Tianyun's reincarnation or not. Aside from Mo Tianyun, who else on the Tianyuan continent possesses such terrifying talent and battle prowess? The power that Mo Tianyun uses is also extremely terrifying. Newbies looked at Jianshan with an extremely complicated gaze. At that moment, Jianshan's position in his heart had undergone a subtle change. Jianshan had fused with his sword, turning himself into a sword. His entire body seemed to have become a sharp sword as he shot towards Jinfeng with lightning speed. Although his speed was not as fast as when he used spatial force, it was not much slower. In the blink of an eye, Jianshan arrived before Jinfeng. He immediately poured the chaotic force in his body into the ruler armament in his hand. The ruler armament's glow was immediately suppressed as it shone with a jet-black luster. Jianshan's arm rapidly danced as the dragon-slaying sword in his hand instantly turned into a dense net of swords that enveloped Jinfeng. Every single strike that Jianshan struck out contained some sort of mystery. His swordsmanship was exquisite, as if it had been created by nature. It was flawless without any flaws. Arg! Jinfeng let out a miserable shriek as he was enveloped by the net of swords. Blood constantly spurted out. In just 2 breaths of time, the dignified Saint Ruler Jinfeng had become a bloodied man. His body was covered in terrifying wounds, and there was not a single part of him that was unscathed. In less than a breath's time, Jianshan had left over 1,000 wounds on Jinfeng's body. Newbies and Huang Tianba, who were watching the battle from afar, both sucked in a breath of cold air. They stared at Jianshan in shock. At that moment, the two of them had the same thought. What a fast sword. I never thought that little brother Jianshan would be so terrifying when using the sword. I've underestimated him before. I'm afraid this is little brother Jianshan's true strength. This kind of sword speed is too terrifying. In terms of speed, who could be his opponent? Huang Tianba secretly said in his heart. So, at that moment, a sword light flashed, and the dragon-slaying sword turned into an afterimage as it slid past Jinfeng's neck. Jinfeng's head and body were instantly separated as his head flew high into the air. Chapter 692. Jinfeng's body fell from the sky powerlessly, heavily smashing into a mountain below. A Saint Ruler had died, just like that. Jianshan stood there with his sword in his hand. The shocking presence he gave off slowly receded as well. In the blink of an eye, The sharp sword had become as simple as before. The unique characteristics of a saint ruler reappeared on him. Although he seemed to be standing there casually, he seemed to have completely fused with the space around him, fusing with the surroundings. Jianshun withdrew the chaotic force he had channeled into the dragon-slaying sword without holding back at all. The glossy, black light on the sword had already dispersed, and the hazy glow that had been suppressed by the chaotic force reappeared, obscuring the original appearance of the sword. Jianshun hovered in the air as he glanced at Jin Feng's corpse with mixed feelings. 2 saint rulers from the Hongfu clan had died today, but only Jin Feng could be considered a saint ruler who had truly died to his hands. This was because he had personally destroyed Jin Feng's soul, unlike Jin Tian's soul, which had been destroyed by Huang Tianba. Jinshin's emotions were slightly stirred after personally killing a saint ruler, because experts like that were rare on the Tian-Yuan continent. Not only were they few in number, but every single one of them was a great figure. They were existences that truly stood at the apex of the continent. Brother Jinshin's performance has truly broadened my horizons. I never thought that Brother Jinshin's mastery of the way of the sword would be so great. It's actually so terrifying when you use the sword. There probably won't be a second person on the Tian-Yuan continent who can match your unparalleled speed. Huang Tianba had arrived before Jinshin at some point in time as he praised in amazement. However, he was speaking from the bottom of his heart. He was not trying to curry favor with Jinshin. Newbies flew over from afar as well. He stared at Jinshin with an extremely mixed expression and said, "The strike you used before was no weaker than a 5th heavenly layer saint ruler. I never thought that after breaking through to saint ruler and wielding a ruler armament, your strength would actually undergo such a drastic change." Jinshin's expression did not change at all as he listened to the 2 people behind him. He remained as calm as before. He stared at the dragon-slaying sword in front of him in a daze and said, "It's all because of this sword. If it weren't for this sword, I definitely wouldn't have been able to kill a saint ruler so easily. Even though he was heavily injured, as long as I had the sword in hand, my strength would be extraordinary. Looks like this ruler armament is a perfect match for you, Brother Jinshin. Only in the hands of a sword expert like you can such a precious ruler armament not disgrace its status. In the past, the ruler armament in Jin Tian's hands truly drowned out its brilliance. Huang Tianba could not help but praise. Huang Tianba could not help but praise. Then, he looked down and waved his hand. A 3-meter-long spear that was as thick as his wrist flew up from below. It was shining with a misty light. Huang Tianba studied the spear for a while before handing it over to Jinshin. He smiled. "Brother Jinshin, this ruler armament was originally called the God-slaying spear. It's a very bold name. Just like the dragon-slaying sword, it's a treasure of the Hongfu clan passed down from generation to generation. Now that Jin Feng and Jin Tian are dead, the God-slaying spear in my hands should belong to you, Brother Jinshin." Jinshin looked away from the dragon-slaying sword with some reluctance. He studied the God-slaying spear. Although the name was bold, there was nothing special about the spear. It was no different from a regular spear. The only difference was that it possessed the presence of a ruler armament. "Senior Huang, this sword is enough for me. You should keep this ruler armament. With 2 ruler armaments, your Huang clan strength will increase by quite a bit." Jinshin refused in a roundabout manner. Huang Tianba laughed. Huang Tianba chuckled and said, "My Huang family is not like those ancient clans that can possess multiple ruler armaments. To my Huang family, the more ruler armaments we have, the better. This thing is like a hot potato. With each additional ruler armament, we need more power to protect it. Although my Huang family has resolved our feud, having a single ruler armament is enough. Moreover, there is no one in my Huang family that uses a spear, so this God-slaying spear is useless to my Huang family. Little brother Jinshin, please accept it." Jinshin hesitated for a moment, but in the end he still accepted the God-slaying spear and said, "If that's the case, then I'll accept this God-slaying spear for now." "Ha ha! There's no need for little brother Jinshin to be so polite. Without little brother Jinshin's help, the old man wouldn't have been able to kill Jin Tian and Jin Feng so effortlessly. This is what little brother Jinshin deserves." Huang Tianba paused and cupped his hands towards Jianshan. Little brother Jianshan, the two saint rulers of the Hongfu clan are dead, but their remaining forces are still deeply rooted. The old man must immediately return to the Huang clan to make some arrangements. He must eliminate all future troubles. Farewell. Huang Tianba immediately left for the Huang clan after bidding farewell to Jianshan, leaving behind Jianshan and newbies hovering in the air by themselves. Jianshan looked at the ruler armament in his hand before passing it to newbies. He smiled. Newbies, you've done well today. I have no use for this spear, so you should take it. Newbies was deeply touched by Jianshan's generosity. He smiled faintly. I'm not used to using this. At the same time, I'm a golden-striped silver snake, a beast of antiquity. My battle prowess is extremely great, so I don't need any external items. As a result, you should take it back. Don't forget that you still have a large group of people under you. Giving it to them when the time is right is not a bad idea. It'll even increase the strength of your flame mercenaries. It looks like I won't be able to give away my ruler weapon, the soul-slaying spear. Jianshan smiled bitterly as he put the spear away. He directly tossed it into his space ring. Newbies, let's go back as well. Yes, great newbies. Jianshan took the space rings from the two of them before leaving. He returned to the flame mercenaries. During this period of time, the flame mercenaries became more and more renowned. With 3 saint rulers present, the flame mercenaries have been pushed to the level of a peak organization without a doubt. They were the most powerful existence within a radius of 200,000 kilometers. Only the hermit clans that remained hidden in the mountains and forests could stand up to the flame mercenaries. However, the captain of the flame mercenaries, Jianshan, had become a household name among the hermit clans. Last time, several hermit clans and the 2 ancient clans had fought over the tungsten alloy. In the end, Jianshan had managed to invite the Grand Elder of Mercenary City and heavily injure the Holy Emperor of the Aoyan clan with a single glance. The news had spread far and wide among the hermit clans, causing them to become afraid of provoking the flame mercenaries. As a result, the flame mercenaries have been living rather peacefully during this time. The matter of mining the tungsten alloy was carried out with great fanfare. They did not hide it at all. Not only did they spend a large amount of money to hire a large number of people to mine the ore, they even recruited people from the surrounding kingdoms. As a result, the flame mercenaries could harvest a large amount of tungsten alloy every day. 2 days later, the upper echelon and a few important people of the flame mercenaries gathered in the discussion hall of the flame mercenaries. Jianshan held the sleeping white tiger in his arms as he calmly sat at the very front. He seemed like a leader. Brother, this is a sketch drawn up by Sister Yu and I along with the higher-ups of the mercenary group. Now that we have an inexhaustible supply of tungsten alloy in our hands, we plan to use this batch of tungsten alloy to build a city. A city completely made of tungsten alloy. I wonder if you have any objections. Brother, your sister's suggestion is pretty good. Using tungsten alloy to build a city is unprecedented on the Tianyuan continent. If the city really is built, I can swear that it will definitely be the toughest, most powerful, and most valuable city on the Tianyuan continent. Even the 7 capital cities of the Tianyuan continent will not be able to compare to it, Ming Dong excitedly said. Jianshan roughly glanced at the plan on the paper and nodded with a smile. Lian, I'll leave this matter to you two. You've thought things through very thoroughly, and I'm at ease when you do things. If it's possible, we'll follow your suggestion and use tungsten alloy to build the toughest city on the Tianyuan continent. All right, brother. Bai Lian was overjoyed. She was the one who had thought of the suggestion in the first place. As soon as she thought about how the toughest city on the Tianyuan continent would be built under her plans, she felt extremely proud. Bang! Suddenly, there was a loud noise. The tightly shut door of the great hall was violently kicked open by someone. The sturdy door made of ironwood was directly turned into dust that flew everywhere, alarming everyone who was having a meeting in the great hall. The expressions of Jianshan, newbies, and Jita Tai suddenly changed as they stared outside in shock. This was because even with their strength, They had not sensed anything amiss at all, which was very unbelievable to them. Chapter 693. Everyone who was discussing matters in the discussion hall was stunned by this sudden development. They all stared at the middle-aged man in a daze, unable to react. After all, this was the core area of the Flame Mercenaries. There were basically 3 layers of guards guarding this place tightly. Even a fly would not be able to get in. How had the middle-aged man managed to get in and even shattered the tightly shut doors of the discussion hall? All of this was just so unexpected. After all, with the Flame Mercenaries' current reputation and strength, who would dare to provoke them in a radius of over 100,000 kilometers? Jianshun, newbies, and Jita all focused their gazes on the middle-aged man who had suddenly barged in. However, when newbie saw the middle-aged man's appearance, his face immediately changed drastically. Disbelief filled his face as he could not help but cry out, "It's actually you! Why have you come out?" Jianshun glanced at newbies beside him. He was also puzzled. Newbie's expression clearly indicated that he knew who the middle-aged man was. However, Jianshun did not understand what had happened to make newbies lose his composure like that. The middle-aged man glared at Jianshun and sneered, "I never thought that a little snake like you would actually choose a human as a servant and willingly become a pawn of a human. It really does surprise me. Don't the golden-striped silver snakes of antiquity view their dignity as more important than their lives? You seem to be an exception." Newbies' face immediately sank when he heard the middle-aged man's provocative words. The golden-striped silver snakes really did view their dignity as more important than anything else. The middle-aged man's words had touched Newbie's bottom line. He no longer cared about the identity of the person before him. He snorted coldly, "It's not up to you to interfere with what the great newbies, do. Let alone you. Even the great king has no right to interfere." The middle-aged man sneered, "You only dare to say that in front of me. Do you really dare to say that in front of the great king?" Newbies' face became unsettled. He gritted his teeth and stared at the middle-aged man, but he had nothing to say. The middle-aged man was right. No matter how proud Newbies was, he could only obediently put away his unruly nature before the great king. The middle-aged man did not continue arguing with Newbies. His gaze quickly landed on the white tiger in Jianshun's arms as he slept. His gaze was filled with both mixed feelings and joy. "You must be Jianshun. Don't worry, I won't make things difficult for you. Hand over the little tiger in your arms to me. That way, everything will be fine." The middle-aged man stared at Jianshun emotionlessly as he spoke coldly. As soon as he heard that the middle-aged man wanted the little white tiger in his arms, Jianshun's heart immediately sank. He stared at the middle-aged man in surprise and asked in a deep voice, "Who are you?" The middle-aged man sneered. He glanced at newbies in golden robes and said, "He knows who I am." Jianshun immediately looked at newbies. Actually, he had already vaguely guessed the middle-aged man's identity, but he had yet to confirm it. "Jianshun, he's one of the 2 kings of the Gilligan clan, the Tiger King and D King," Newbies said with a heavy voice. His expression was very ugly. "What? He's a king of the Gilligan clan? Is it the Gilligan clan in the depths of the Cross Mountains?" Jita could not help but cry out. As a saint ruler who had been a saint ruler for many years, he was familiar with the Gilligan clan. It was an extremely powerful clan. Not only were the 2 kings on par with the Holy Emperor, but they also had over a dozen saint rulers under them. Even the ancient clans did not dare to provoke the Gilligan clan. The region in the depths of the Cross Mountains was a forbidden zone for all humans. Even saint rulers did not dare to set foot there. Jianshun's expression immediately became extremely ugly. Although he knew that the king of the Gilligan clan would find him sooner or later, he had never thought that it would come so soon. After all, it had only been a short while since he obtained the white tiger. The Tianyuan continent was so vast that finding him in the sea of people was like finding a needle in a haystack. Noticing the change in Jianshun's expression, the middle-aged man sneered. "Jianshun, there's no need to be afraid. As long as you hand the tiger over to me, I'll leave immediately. I won't make things difficult for you." Jianshun stared at the middle-aged man with an ugly expression. He gruffly said, "You've actually left the depths of the Cross Mountains and stepped into the human world. Have you forgotten the agreement we made with the Cross Mountains in the past? The consequences of breaking the agreement should be severe. This time, it was the middle-aged man's turn to change his expression. He coldly stared at Jianshun and said, I'm right here right now. I only need to move a finger to wipe out all of you. Jianshun, you're a smart person. You'll make a wise choice. I believe you won't do anything stupid. Hand over the white tiger obediently. Don't force me to do anything. Tiger King, it's fine that you've set foot on the Tian-Yuan continent, but if you dare to slaughter humans on the Tian-Yuan continent, the human experts will never let you go. Even if you return to the Gilligan clan, you won't be able to avoid being hunted down by the human experts. Newbies gruffly said, Let me tell you something else as well. Jianshun has the support of the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. What? He knows the Grand Elder of Mercenary City? The middle-aged man was immediately stunned. Deep fear filled his eyes. The Grand Elder of Mercenary City is my uncle. Sir, I don't dare to reveal who you are, but if you dare to do anything to my brother, I'll immediately invite my uncle over. My uncle may be in Mercenary City right now, but he can come here in an instant, said Ming Dong. Although he was still very doubtful about the entire situation, he already knew that the middle-aged man was the ruler of a powerful clan from Newbies' introduction. Even Newbies and Jitatai feared him. The middle-aged man stood there with an uneasy expression. The worry in his eyes completely vanished as he stared at them in disdain. He sneered, Don't try to scare me with the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. Do you think I'm as easy to fool as a 3-year-old? Jianshun, I'll say it one last time. Hand over the white tiger in your arms immediately, or don't blame me for being rude. I don't care who you are, but it's impossible for me to hand over the winged tiger. Jianshun replied without any hesitation. Afterward, he used his left arm to clamp the winged tiger tightly under his armpit as he drew the ruler armament dragon-slaying sword from his space ring with his right hand. With the sword in hand, Jianshun's presence underwent an overwhelming change. He immediately became a shining sword as a powerful presence radiated from him, soaring into the sky. He seemed like a divine sword, radiating with supreme might. Looks like I'll have to do it myself. The middle-aged man smiled cruelly as he pressed forward. Swish! Suddenly, Jianshun's body shot up from the ground. He directly smashed a hole in the roof of the discussion hall and charged out. Only outside could he unleash his full strength without worrying about harming others with his full strength. The moment Jianshun charged out of the roof, Newbies' voice rang out in his ears. Jianshun, hurry up and invite the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. Only he can resolve this problem. Jianshun felt bitter inside when he heard that. Last time, Tianjin had suddenly arrived during the fight for the tungsten alloy mine because he had left Huang Tianba a piece of jade to inform him. Now that the jade had shattered, there was no second piece. Even if he wanted to ask Tianjin for help, he did not have the ability to do so. You still dare to attack me? One arrogant person. Do you think you can contend against me with your strength? King Jinlijian sneered as he stared at Jianshun. Only then did he follow unhurriedly. With his strength, he was not afraid of Jianshun escaping at all. In the blink of an eye, Jianshun and the Gilligan King disappeared from the discussion hall, leaving behind a large group of people who stood there at a loss for what to do. Oh, seniors, what are you still doing here? Hurry up and help my brother. Let's deal with that person together. Billion finally returned to his senses. He immediately looked at Newbies and Jitatai pleadingly. The two of them were the most powerful people in the hall right now. Sigh. Jitatai let out a long sigh. His face was filled with helplessness. Newbies shrugged and said innocently, Little girl, it's not that we don't want to help Jianshun. It's just that this matter is beyond our abilities. You probably don't know how strong King Jinlijian is. He's not someone we can deal with. We'll just be courting death if we go. What's going on? What's going on here? An old voice rang out from the distance. With that, an old man in blue robes appeared in the discussion hall. It was the ancestor of the Bai family, Bai, who had just arrived after being alarmed by Jianshun's aura. As soon as he saw the ancestor of the Bai family, Billion immediately grabbed his hand and said urgently, That's great, that's great. Great-grandfather, you're finally here. Brother has encountered a powerful enemy. Great-grandfather, please go help him. Hearing that, Baihai's face sank. He turned to Nubis and Jitatai and asked, "What's going on?" Nubis sighed. "The person who's come is the king of the Jinlijian clan. He's a Class 8 yellow tiger. Even if we work together, we're not his opponent. It'll be pointless if we go. The only thing we can do now is call the Grand Elder of Mercenary City." Chapter 694. What? You can't contact the Grand Elder of Mercenary City? Nubis' face immediately changed drastically when he heard Ming Dong's words. Ming Dong became frantic. Uncle Tian was able to hurry over last time because he left Senior Huang Tianba a piece of jade that allowed him to contact him. Now that the jade has been used up, I've used up all the items that Uncle Tian left me, so I can't contact him anymore. We're in trouble now. The opponent is a holy emperor. How can Jianshun be his opponent? Baihai also understood a few things from their conversation. He panicked as well. How did my great-grandson provoke an expert like that? And he's a ruler of the Gilligan clan. No, he's the only hope of my family. I can't let my great-grandson die like this. No matter how powerful the enemy is this time, I have to save my great-grandson, even if I have to risk my life. With that, Baihai wanted to fly out through the hole that Jianshun had created, but as soon as he moved, he was stopped by Nubis. "You old fool. It's not like you don't know how powerful Holy Emperor experts are. You won't be able to change anything even if you go with your strength as a 5th heavenly layer Saint Ruler. If a Holy Emperor wants to kill you, it'll only be a matter of moving a finger. You'll just be going to your death," Nubis scolded. "I wonder if my grandfather can save Jianshun. I'll call him over immediately." Little Fatty also knew that Jianshun was in danger. After saying that, he immediately bit the finger of his left hand and dripped a drop of blood onto the space ring on his right hand. Nubis also became rather irritated. He immediately cursed when he heard Little Fatty's words. "Who do you think your grandfather is? What's the point of him coming here? He's the Grand Elder of Mercenary City and a supreme expert of some ancient clan. You have to know that he's the ruler of the Gilligan clan, a Class 8 yellow tiger. There's only a handful of people on the Tianyuan continent who can rival him. Don't curse my grandfather. My grandfather is very powerful." Little Fatty immediately became extremely displeased with Nubis belittling his grandfather. He roared at Nubis furiously. "You're just a brat. The great Nubis, can't be bothered with you. You better think of something right now. It's best if you contact the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, or Jianshun will be in danger if he doesn't hand over the winged tiger." Jianshun held the white tiger tightly under his armpit as he gripped the dragon-slaying sword tightly in his right hand. He radiated with a surging presence as he shot off into the distance. He seemed to have completely fused with space, becoming one with it. He shot off into the distance silently. He moved extremely quickly, leaving behind an extremely thin blur. Behind him, the king of the Gilligan clan sneered as he followed at a steady pace. With his strength as a saint king, he was not afraid of Jianshun, who was only a 1st heavenly layer saint ruler, escaping. In just a few seconds, Jianshun had already appeared several dozen kilometers away, far from where the flame mercenaries were. The bustling city below him had completely vanished, replaced by desolate plains. "Jianshun, it's peaceful enough here. There's no need to worry about harming the innocent and causing celestials decay. Let's deal with the matter here." At this moment, the ruler of the Gilligan clan suddenly spoke to Jianshun. With that, the ruler of the Gilligan clan suddenly appeared in front of Jianshun. He just happened to block Jianshun's path. Jianshun reacted extremely quickly as well. He came to a halt as he glared at the middle-aged man. His face had never been so stern before. Afterward, the chaotic knight in his dantian churned out a large amount of chaotic force. The tremendous amount of chaotic force rapidly circulated through Jianshun's body, reaching every corner of his body. He pushed the defenses of the chaotic body to the limit. At the same time, a strand of chaotic force surged into Jianshun's right arm before pouring into the dragon-slaying sword. The light emanating from the dragon-slaying sword was immediately suppressed and replaced by a layer of bright black light. At the same time, An extremely destructive aura erupted from the dragon-slaying sword, causing the surrounding space to twist and warp violently. At that moment, Jianshan had adjusted himself to his peak condition. He used his full strength, not daring to hold back at all. He knew that this battle would probably be the most difficult battle of his life, the one that he had the least chance of winning. The ruler of the Gilligan clan looked at Jianshan in a mocking manner and said, "Interesting. I never thought that you would give off the presence of a 5th heavenly layer saint ruler when you're only a 1st heavenly layer saint ruler. You really are an outstanding human. No wonder Rum Guinness gave her child to you. But do you really think that you can stand up to me with just this bit of strength? You're just too arrogant," the ruler of the Gilligan clan said in disdain. Jianshan remained silent. He glared at the ruler of the Gilligan clan and suddenly bellowed out. Even more chaotic force poured into the dragon-slaying sword from within him. The sword immediately began to glow with dark light as the destructive presence suddenly increased by several times before being swung down. A sword chi completely condensed from chaotic force shot out from the dragon-slaying sword. It tore through space and shot toward the ruler of the Gilligan clan with lightning speed. Jianshan had used his full strength for the attack. It was the most powerful attack he could use right now. The ruler of the Gilligan clan sneered. He gently clenched his hand, and the space before him immediately froze. Jianshan's shockingly powerful sword chi was forcefully frozen in the air, unable to move at all. Afterward, the frozen space directly shattered and the sword chi dispersed as well. Jianshan's full-powered attack did not even have the right to approach the ruler of the Gilligan clan. He only needed to move his hand to nullify Jianshan's attack effortlessly. Jianshan's heart immediately sank when he saw this. Without any hesitation, he immediately sheathed his sword and fled. His body fused with space, and with the assistance of spatial force, he fled into the distance with lightning speed. "You want to escape from me? You have no right." The ruler of the Gilligan clan stared at Jianshan in disdain. He waved his hand and created a space gate. In the blink of an eye, he appeared before Jianshan and blocked his path again. "Jianshan, I've already given you a chance. You're the one who doesn't know what's good for you. If that's the case, don't blame me for being rude," the ruler of the Gilligan clan said emotionlessly. Afterwards, he directly threw a punch at Jianshan, who was several hundred meters away. The punch contained the endless mysteries of the world. It was a simple punch, but it hid many mysteries. As he threw the punch, the time in the region seemed to come to a momentary halt. An invisible force directly shot toward Jianshan with lightning speed, striking his chest. Spurt. Jianshan was unable to block it at all. He vomited a mouthful of blood, which dispersed into the air as a bloody mist. His greatest trump card, the chaotic body, had shattered. A transparent hole had appeared in his chest, and he could even see what was behind Jianshan through the hole. The powerful force directly slammed Jianshan into the ground, creating a huge crater. He sank in deeply. The Gilligan king slowly floated down. He coldly stared at Jianshan in the crater and murmured, "This child is extraordinary. Not only does he possess a strange and powerful power, but his body is extraordinary as well. Since we've become enemies today, I can't let you live. Otherwise, once you become powerful in the future, you'll come for revenge sooner or later. Whatever, I've already set foot on the Tian-Yuan continent, so I'll just get rid of you along the way, just in case you cause more trouble in the future." With a gentle wave of his hand, the white tiger immediately flew out of the crater, directly flying toward the ruler. At the same time, the great power condensed in the ruler's right hand once again. He was ready to go all out and kill Jianshan. Chapter 695. The scorching sun in the sky disappeared in an instant, and the originally bright sky suddenly turned dark. It was so dark that it was suffocating, as if the end of the world had arrived. Moreover, the originally flowing air also froze in an instant. At this moment, time seemed to have come to a standstill. The white tiger that had drifted towards the king of the Gilligan clan also stopped, before gently landing on the ground under the support of an invisible force. The king of the Gilligan clan had already become extremely ugly. His eyes were filled with undisguised shock because his body had been bound tightly by an unimaginably powerful force. No matter how hard he tried, he could not move at all. He could not break free at all. Bastard, how did I run into a human powerhouse in such a remote place? The king of the Gilligan clan was infuriated. The person who had attacked him in the dark was so powerful that it made him shiver in fear. Before the other party had even shown up, he had already been completely restrained. Just what kind of strength was this? Member of the Gilligan clan, you have violated the original agreement and set foot in the territory of our human world. According to the original agreement, Old Man has the right to kill you. The Gimli king's body was bound, and he couldn't move at all. He could only watch as the hoe hit him in the chest. Bang! With a heavy sound, a head-sized hole appeared in the chest of the king of the Gilligan clan. His Class 8 magical beast body was as fragile as tofu in front of the hoe, easily pierced through by the hoe. The king of the Gilligan clan vomited blood. His body was still bound by an invisible force, so he could not move at all. Who are you? Are you the Grand Elder of Mercenary City or a member of the 10 Protector clans? The king of the Gilligan clan roared furiously as he stared at the sky in shock. He had actually been suppressed to the point where he could not even move with his strength. There were very few people with such strength in the human world. Apart from the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, only the 10 Protector clans had such a supreme expert. The ruler of the Jinlijian clan did not receive a reply. The hoe that was completely forged from ordinary metal shone with a surging black light as the powerful darkness attributed Saint Force and the invisible world Force miraculously fused together. It was actually much more powerful than any single energy. Afterward, the hoe began to dig at the ruler's head like it was digging dirt. Roar! A great tiger's roar rang out from the king of the Gilligan clan. His body shone with golden light as he turned into a huge, golden tiger that was over 10 meters long in a single instance. His fur shone with a dazzling golden light. With a jolt, the tiger actually broke free from the invisible restraints and regained its freedom. Afterward, it immediately dodged to the side. The hoe dug into the tiger's tail, severing it in half. It caused the king of the Gilligan clan to howl in pain. After the first strike, the hoe did not stop. It emitted a black light and once again dug towards the giant tiger's head. At the same time, the surrounding space quickly solidified as if it had been frozen into a block of ice, once again restricting the giant tiger's body. It won't be that easy to kill me, the tiger said. The giant golden tiger spoke in human language and immediately let out a long roar towards the sky. All of a sudden, a bloody light burst out from its body and submerged its body. Then, with a flash of red light, the giant golden tiger disappeared without a trace. It had used a secret technique to escape. That's the supreme escape technique of the magical beasts. I never thought you'd use such a self-harming secret technique to escape. Even if you manage to escape this time, your strength will fall from the second heavenly layer to the first heavenly layer of the Holy Emperor. The old voice slowly transmitted from the sky. Immediately, the hoe paused in midair, transforming into a black glow that flew into the spatial crack 100 meters in the sky and disappeared. At the same time, the darkness in the world also swiftly disappeared. Very quickly, the world regained its brightness. Jianshan slowly floated up from the pit and gently landed on the ground to one side. However, he had already fainted, so he had no idea what was happening outside. What a strange power. What a strong physique. He can still heal himself after suffering such a heavy injury. It seems that it won't be long before he'll be as good as new. The old voice came out of the void again. It was impossible to tell where it came from, and there was no trace of it. Immediately, the old voice rang out again. Tianjin, you've been hiding in the dark for so long. Isn't it time for you to show yourself? As soon as he finished speaking, a space gate quickly formed in the void. Tianjin, dressed in white, floated out from the space gate. He stared calmly at the spatial crack opposite him and said, Houston, we haven't seen each other for more than 1,000 years. I never thought that we'd meet again under such circumstances. What surprises me is that you're also secretly protecting Jinshin. The spatial crack rapidly condensed into a space gate, and an old man in extremely simple clothes walked out. The old man was barefooted and his feet were covered in mud. He carried the hoe that had injured the Gimli king on his shoulder casually, making him seem like an old farmer. Jinshin is my grandson's friend, and he's someone I value. Obviously, I have to protect him and prevent him from dying. Tianjin, why are you secretly protecting Jinshin? With your strength, you should be able to see through the secret of the winged tiger. Doesn't Mercenary City want to steal the winged tiger when it's young and tame it? Once the winged tiger grows up, it'll be an extremely powerful force, Houston said calmly. Back then, there was a rule in the secret records left behind by the city lord. Mercenary City can't become enemies with the winged tiger god, and when the winged tiger god appears, we have to do our best to help it grow. I'm only carrying out the rules set down by the city lord. Tianjin paused when he reached there. He stared deeply at the unconscious Jinshin on the ground and said, and Jinshin's talent is unprecedented on the Tian Yuan continent. His future accomplishments will definitely surpass ours, so I obviously have to protect him. Once he truly reaches the peak of cultivation, it'll be a blessing for us humans. Perhaps he'll become a crucial figure for us humans to fend off the beast god continent in the future. Tianjin paused and said, Houston, looks like you've discovered the winged tiger's identity before me. Your Bloodsword sect has been constantly appearing along the coast, so you must have been monitoring the beast god continent. Chapter 696. Houston nodded slightly. That's right. I think the peace of our Tian Yuan continent will be disrupted soon. Looks like you've also guessed that the matter of the Gilligan clan dealing with the winged tiger won't be that simple. That's right. The peace of our Tian Yuan continent will be disrupted soon, and the protector clans that have been silent for many years will all appear. Houston, I know you've retreated to the Tian Yuan continent for 1,000 years, but you're still a supreme expert of the human race after all. When the beast god continent invades in the future, I hope your Bloodsword sect can contribute to the survival of the human race, Tianjin sternly said to Houston. Houston nodded nonchalantly. Don't worry. Although I, Houston, swore that I would never interfere with the matters of the Tian Yuan continent 1,000 years ago, this matter will affect the survival of the human race. I, Houston, will not just stand by and do nothing. That's for the best. With the addition of your Bloodsword sect, our power against the Beast God continent will increase by a lot. Although we all know that the Beast God continent has come for the winged tiger, they definitely won't let the Beast God continent obtain the winged tiger. I'm guessing that the king of the Beast God continent wants to possess the young winged tiger and forcefully take over the body of the winged tiger. Looks like you've thought deeper than I have. I originally thought that the king of the Beast God continent wanted to kill the young winged tiger to maintain his position as the ruler of the magical beasts. Looks like this matter is much more complicated than I imagined it to be. Houston sighed emotionally. It is indeed much more complicated than you imagined it to be. Tianjin stared at Houston deeply. After a moment of hesitation, he said, Houston, you probably don't know this, but the winged tiger from ancient times once left behind a divine hall on the Beast God continent and placed his legacy in the depths of the divine hall. However, other magical beasts are unable to enter the divine hall other than divine beasts that are also winged tigers, unless they are stronger than the winged tiger and forcefully break through the barrier of the divine hall. Once the king of the Beast God continent possesses the body of the winged tiger, he will be able to successfully enter the depths of the divine hall and obtain the legacy. It's extremely likely for him to reach the same level of cultivation as the winged tiger from ancient times. At that time, there will be no one who can oppose him in the human world. Houston became extremely stern. He remained in the air for quite a while without saying anything. Only a while later did he sigh heavily at the sky. Looks like we have to protect this winged tiger god with everything we have. We can't let it end up in the hands of the Beast God continent. Our human race doesn't have an expert like Mo Tianyun right now. Once the ruler of the Beast God continent successfully takes over the winged tiger god's body, even the Path Lord of Carnal Desires will not be his opponent. Tianjin frowned when he heard about the path lord of carnal desires. After a moment of silence, he said, "Let's not count on the path lord. That traitor who's been exiled from the Pure Heart Pavilion is a traitor. He's obsessed with his desires. Once he learns about the winged tiger, he'll probably try to take it for himself immediately. Although the path lord's conduct is indeed despicable, his talent is truly a prodigy. At the very least, he's the only person on the Tian Yuan continent who can fend off the king of the Beast God continent. Perhaps we'll need the path lord to repel the invasion of the Beast God continent in the future," Houston said after some thought. Sigh. Tianjin gently sighed. He waved his hand and said, "Houston, let's end our conversation here. When the Beast God continent does something in the future, we'll discuss our plans with the Protector clans. Anyway, it's best to keep the secret of the winged tiger hidden on the Tian Yuan continent for as long as possible. During this time, we should do everything we can to help the winged tiger grow. It's still too weak right now. In the past few years, your mercenary city must have accumulated quite a lot of heavenly resources, right? Leaving the matter of assisting the winged tiger god's growth to your mercenary city is perfect. It's best if you stay behind and deal with the matters that have happened here. That'll be more appropriate." After saying that, Houston turned around and stepped into the spatial gate, disappearing from sight. Only Sky Sword was left behind. Tianjin stared at the unconscious Jianshan on the ground for a while, with mixed feelings before gently sighing. With a wave of his hand, Jianshan and the winged tiger immediately drifted over before entering the space gate with Tianjin. Ming Dong and the others remained gathered in the hall of the flame mercenaries. They anxiously tried to think of a way to save Jianshan. Even though there were a few saint rulers present, they were as weak as ants before the Holy Emperor. Even if they worked together, they were not the opponent of the Holy Emperor. At this moment, the space in the hall suddenly distorted without any prior signs. Before anyone could react, a space gate rapidly condensed, and Tianjin drifted out in plain white robes. Beside him was the unconscious Jianshan, who was supported by an invisible force, slowly landing on the ground. "Uncle Tian." Ming Dong's eyes lit up when he saw the middle-aged man. He immediately called out in excitement and ran over to grab Tianjin's arm affectionately. He quickly glanced at the unconscious Jianshan and said, "Uncle Tian, you've finally come. I knew you would come. How is Jianshan? Is he all right?" Tianjin struggled to maintain his indifference when he saw Jianshan. He could not help but gently smile as he looked at Ming Dong in a caring manner. He said, "Child, don't worry. Jianshan is fine." Tianjin cared for Ming Dong a lot more. Greetings to the Grand Elder. Jitatai and newbies both recognized Tianjin, so they did not dare to be negligent. They immediately bowed at the same time and were filled with respect. Chapter 697. Tianjin stared at Bai Hai in surprise. Clearly, he was extremely surprised at how Bai Hai had become Jianshan's great-grandfather. However, he did not ask about it. He waved his hand gently and said, "You can all disperse. Find a quiet place for Jianshan to recuperate. I already know about what happened here. Do not spread this matter. Remember, Junior understands. We will definitely not leak anything." Newbies and the others clasped their hands respectfully. Afterward, Ming Dong personally carried the unconscious Jianshan into his room. Tianjin, Huang Wan, Yu Yu, Bai Lian, and Little Fatty followed in from outside. Huang Wan, Yu Yu, and Bai Lian all shed tears of sadness when they saw the unconscious Jianshan covered in blood. As one of the people who cared about Jianshan the most, they felt extremely pained and heartbroken when they saw Jianshan's miserable state. Afterward, Huang Wan immediately took out a few Class 6 Radiant Divine pills from her space ring and fed them to Jianshan, hoping that they could hasten Jianshan's recovery. There's no need to feed him these. Jianshan's body is extremely special. It has a very powerful self-recovery ability. His injuries are rapidly recovering, and he'll be back to normal before long. Tianjin stopped Huang Wan and said indifferently. Huang Wan hesitated for a while before taking back the Class 6 Radiant Divine pills in the end. "Uncle Tian, I knew you would definitely appear. It's all thanks to you this time. Otherwise, Jianshun would really be in danger. Ming Dong looked at Tianjin gratefully, but he still felt a lingering fear inside. He was unable to imagine just what would have happened to Jianshun if Tianjin had not appeared in time. Tianjin smiled. Jianshun is a prodigy of our Tian Yuan continent. His talent is unprecedented, and his future accomplishments are limitless. If such a prodigy were to die along the way, it would be a loss to our Tian Yuan continent. Don't worry, your Uncle Tian won't just watch Jianshun be harmed. Uncle Tian, so you've always been secretly protecting Jianshun. Ming Dong was overjoyed. Ming Dong was overjoyed. If that was the case, Jianshun would not face any life-threatening dangers on the Tian Yuan continent. Jianshun smiled, but he did not make a clear response. In reality, ever since he discovered that Jianshun was connected to the barrier spirit of Mercenary City, he had begun to place great importance on Jianshun. He had left an extremely obscure imprint on Jianshun so that he would only assist Jianshun when his life was truly in danger. After learning that the Grand Elder of Mercenary City was secretly protecting Jianshun, Bai Lian, Yu, and Huang Wan all rejoiced inside. They were extremely happy because they knew that Jianshun's life would be guaranteed once the Grand Elder of Mercenary City protected him. At this moment, Jianshun's finger twitched slightly, and his eyes finally opened slowly. He glanced around in confusion, and when he saw Tianjin standing to one side, he immediately understood what had happened. He said weakly in a hurry, "Thank you for saving my life, Senior." "Jianshun, you've finally woken up?" Jianshun smiled. "Ah, brother has woken up." Everyone was overjoyed by Jianshun's awakening. They all gathered around the bed and asked about Jianshun with great concern. Jianshun sat up with some difficulty. Looking at everyone's worried expressions, a sense of warmth immediately filled his heart. He said, "Don't worry, I'm fine." With that, Jianshun seemed to think of something. He looked around in a hurry. When he discovered the white tiger that was still sleeping beside him, he immediately let out a sigh of relief. He gently hugged the white tiger and murmured, "Fortunately, Little White hasn't been taken away by the ruler of the Gilligan clan, or it would have been done for." "Jianshun, just who is Little White? Why has the ruler of the Gilligan clan come to steal it?" Ming Dong stared at the white tiger and asked out of curiosity. Jianshun hesitated. It was not that he did not want to tell Ming Dong, but he really did not want more people to know about the white tiger's identity. Just as Jianshun was in a difficult spot, Tianjin spoke up in a timely manner. "Child, don't ask about this matter anymore. Just forget about what happened earlier. Don't talk about it in the future. All right, all of you can leave. I have some matters to discuss with Jianshun in private." "Yes, Uncle Tian," Ming Dong answered obediently. Then he left with the others, his head full of curiosity. However, after this commotion, everyone knew that the little white tiger's identity was a huge secret. It definitely wasn't that simple. After Ming Dong and the others left, a transparent barrier silently appeared, enveloping the entire room. Tianjin had personally cast down the barrier, completely isolating the room. Even experts like the Holy Emperor would not be able to find out what was happening inside the barrier. "Senior, do you have something to say to me?" Jianshun became rather stern when he saw how careful Tianjin was. Tianjin stared at the white tiger in Jianshun's arms with mixed feelings. Only after a while did he sigh gently. "Jianshun, there's not much time left. You have to let the winged tiger grow up as soon as possible, or it probably won't be able to stay with you for much longer." Jianshun's face changed slightly. He asked, "Senior, is it about the Gilligan clan?" "This matter is definitely not as simple as you imagine it to be. The threat of the winged tiger comes from all directions. It's not something you can fend off." Tianjin continued after a moment of thought. "Looks like there are some things I need to make clear to you. Jianshun, the Gilligan clan is actually just a chess piece left behind by the Beast God continent on the Tian Yuan continent. The Gilligan clan was probably instructed by the ruler of the Beast God continent to steal the winged tiger. As a result, although we've repelled the Gilligan clan this time, the experts of the Beast God continent will probably invade our continent en masse soon." Chapter 698. Although the threat from the Beast God continent will be dealt with by the protector clans of the Tian Yuan continent, the matter of the winged tiger is extremely important. If the protector clans learn about it, they'll definitely set their sights on the winged tiger after successfully stopping the Beast God continent. At that time, if you're not powerful enough, you'll only be meat on the chopping block. Even my mercenary city won't be able to help you. Tianjin's voice was very heavy. Tianjin's words were like a bucket of cold water that had been poured over Jinshan's head. His heart became completely cold. Although Jinshan did not know a lot about the 10 protector clans, he did know one thing at the very least, which was that the protector clans were extremely powerful. They had even become the protector forces of the Tian Yuan continent. If such a powerful force wanted to move against him, he would be as insignificant as an ant, even as a saint ruler. He would not be able to fight back at all. Jinshan's face had never been so stern before. His wonderful mood from escaping from the hands of the ruler of the Gilligan clan was completely destroyed at that moment. Jinshan held the white tiger's arms tightly as he stroked its soft fur unconsciously. The white tiger was just far too pitiful. It was not a winged tiger, but it was still in its infancy, so it no longer possessed any deterrence. It had embarked on an extremely difficult path as soon as it was born. Not only had it lost its father forever, but its mother had also fled the Cross Mountains with heavy injuries. No one knew where she was hiding even now. Other than that, the Beast God continent and the Protector clans were also eyeing it. Its life was destined to be extremely difficult. Jinshan even had no idea how he would protect the White Tiger when the Beast God continent and the Protector clans moved against the White Tiger in the future. Tianjin gently sighed when he saw Jinshan's heavy expression. There's not much time left. Jinshan, let the winged tiger grow up as soon as possible. Only when you, or it becomes truly powerful, will you have the ability to fend off the Protector clans. Senior, may I ask what kind of strength is needed to fend off the Protector clans and the Beast God continent? Jinshan asked. Before the Protector clans and the Beast God continent, only those at the level of the Holy Emperor have the right to speak, and that's all. Tianjin emphasized the last sentence. If you want to fend off the Protector clans and the Beast God continent, you need to reach the peak of the Holy Emperor, or even surpass the Holy Emperor. Jinshan remained silent for quite a while. A thought of despair gradually spread through his heart. Only those at the level of the Holy Emperor had the right to speak to the Protector clans, but he had only just reached the first heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. Who knew when he would reach the level of the Holy Emperor? Even if he did reach the level of the Holy Emperor, he would only have the right to speak. It would be extremely difficult for him to protect himself and the White Tiger. Although Jinshan was confident that he could reach the peak of the Holy Emperor sooner or later, or even surpass the supreme level of the Holy Emperor, he did not have that much time to increase his strength. This was because the further he progressed, the more difficult it would be to increase his strength. It would not be as easy as before. Tianjin paced around the room with furrowed brows. After a while of thought, he said, "The situation hasn't developed to the worst yet. Although the Beast God continent has learned about the winged tiger, the threat that the winged tiger faces will be much smaller if the Beast God continent doesn't alarm the Protector clans with a large-scale invasion. Once we return, I will personally arrange for people to guard the coast and stop the Jinlijian clan from sending messages to the Beast God continent. However, that's only a temporary measure because the Jinlijian clan has a secret technique that allows them to contact the Beast God continent. Once they discover that they can't send messages back, they'll definitely pay a great price to use the secret technique to send the message back to the Beast God continent. Jinshan, use this time to increase the winged tiger's strength as quickly as possible. Senior, may I ask if you have any methods to make Xiao Bai grow faster?" Jinshan looked at Tianjin hopefully. He hoped to learn another method to make the white tiger grow faster from Tianjin. Tianjin shook his head gently. With the current situation, there's no other way other than feeding it heavenly resources to increase its strength. Jinshan was disappointed. Even though he possessed quite a few heavenly resources, the White Tiger was still a Class 5 magical beast right now. Even if it could increase its strength by consuming heavenly resources, it would take far, far too long to go from Class 5 to Class 7 or even Class 8. What they lacked the most right now was time. It was impossible for the Beast God Continent and the Protector clans to wait until they were powerful enough to move against them. Tianjin passed a space ring to Jianshun and said, "Jianshun, the heavenly resources in here are basically everything that our mercenary city has accumulated over the years. After discussing it with the second and fourth elders, we've decided to use it all to assist the winged tiger. We hope it can grow faster and deal with the future disaster." Jianshun did not turn down the offer. He accepted the space ring with a heavy heart and said gratefully, "Thank you, Senior. There's no need to thank me. This is just Mercenary City carrying out the rules set down by the City Lord back then. This is all that Mercenary City can do," Tianjin replied nonchalantly. Afterward, Tianjin explained a few more things to Jianshun before creating a space gate and leaving behind Jianshun in a daze as he hugged the white tiger. Jianshun sat on the bed blankly for 2 whole hours. Only when the white tiger woke up from its slumber did Jianshun return to his senses. Well, the white tiger had already gained intelligence. As soon as it woke up, it discovered the blood on Jianshun's clothes. It immediately stared at Jianshun with its bright eyes as it constantly whimpered. It seemed to be concerned, pained, or sobbing. Jianshun gently stroked the white tiger's small head as he stared at the white tiger's bright and innocent eyes with a complicated expression. He said softly, "Poor little white. Perhaps we won't be able to live such peaceful days in the near future." The white tiger blinked its eyes and stared at Jianshun in confusion. It did not seem to understand what Jianshun meant. Jianshun sighed inside when he saw little white's innocent appearance. He generously took out a large pile of 1,000-year-old heavenly treasures from his space ring and placed them in front of the white tiger. He said, "Little white, hurry up and eat. Eat all of these. Don't waste a single second. You have to increase your strength as soon as possible." It was unknown whether or not the white tiger heard Jianshun's words. Its bright eyes immediately landed on the large pile of heavenly treasures. Its eyes flashed with excitement as it let out a cheer. It immediately dove into the pile of heavenly treasures and began to chomp down on them. Its face was filled with happiness. Very quickly, the total of over 20,000-year-old heavenly treasures had been completely devoured by the white tiger. After eating these heavenly treasures, the white tiger let out a satisfied burp. It then closed its eyes and lay on the bed without moving. It once again fell into a deep sleep to digest the medicinal effects of the heavenly treasures. Jianshun stared at the sleeping white tiger for a while before gently carrying the white tiger out of the room. Ming Dong and the others were gathered in the guest room. They had been waiting there the entire time, and none of them had left. When Jianshun appeared in the guest room, he was immediately discovered by them. Immediately, all of them surrounded Jianshun and asked about his well-being. They were extremely concerned about his condition. Jianshun could not help but feel warm inside when he sensed everyone's deep concern. He said, "Don't worry, I've completely recovered." The self-recovery ability of the chaotic body was truly astounding. After over 2 hours, the wounds Jianshun had completely recovered. Jianshun's body was fine apart from the fact that his clothes were still covered in blood. Afterwards, everyone gathered together and asked Jianshun all sorts of questions. The sudden visit of the ruler of the Gilligan clan had greatly impacted them all. At the same time, they felt extremely pressured, so they all wanted to understand what was going on. They were also very curious about the true identity of the white tiger. Jianshun did not give too much of an explanation to everyone's questions. The white tiger's identity could not be leaked. The fewer people who knew, the better. Otherwise, once the news of the winged tiger made it out, it would only bring forward the disaster. At this moment, Jianshun suddenly raised his hand to stop everyone from talking. Afterwards, a guard's voice rang out from outside. "Commander, a person called Qin Wujian has important matters to discuss with you." "Qin Wujian? What's he doing here?" Jianshun was slightly surprised. After a moment of thought, he said to the people outside, "Invite him to the central discussion hall to receive him as a guest. "Yes, Sir Regiment Commander," the guard replied and retreated. Chapter 699. Jinshin washed up and changed into a clean set of clothes before heading to the discussion hall to see Qin Wujian. When he arrived, Yu Yu, Bai Lian, and Ming Dong were chatting with Qin Wujian. Qin Wujian immediately stopped talking when he saw Jinshin walk in. He stood up and bowed to Jinshin respectfully. "Qin Wujian greets, Sir Imperial Protector." Jinshin chuckled. He did not make his way to the main throne. Instead, he casually found a seat and sat down. He said, "There's no need to be so courteous, Qin Wujian. May I ask what important matter has brought you here from the Kingdom of Jessen?" Qin Wujian did not beat around the bush and directly stated, "Sir Imperial Protector, the other 4 Imperial Protectors of the Qin Empire have invited Jinshin back to the Qin Empire. They have something important to discuss." Jinshin's heart skipped a beat when he heard that. After a moment of thought, he stared at Qin Wujian with shining eyes and asked, "Qin Wujian, do you know what the 4 Imperial Protector want to discuss with me?" Qin Wujian shook his head with a bitter smile. "That's not something I can know." Jinshin lowered his head and thought for a while. He could not help but recall the series of strange occurrences in the Qin Empire recently. Clearly, something important was about to happen. He nodded. "I understand. I will make a trip to the Qin Empire as soon as possible." Qin Wujian stood up from his chair and clasped his hands at Jinshin. "Sir Imperial Protector, since I've brought the news, my mission is complete. I will take my leave now and return to the Kingdom of Jessen." Qin Wujian did not stay for long. After passing the news to Jinshin, he left the Flame Mercenaries and returned to the Kingdom of Jessen. "Jinshin, the news of you breaking through to Saint Ruler must have reached the ears of the Imperial Protector of the Qin Empire. Is something bad about to happen for them to suddenly call you back?" Ming Dong guessed. Jinshin nodded. "I had a premonition long ago that the Qin Empire was in some sort of trouble. It just so happens that nothing major has happened to the Flame Mercenaries recently, so I'll personally pay a visit to the Qin Empire and see why the 4 Imperial Protector of the Qin Empire wants me. Brother, you have to be careful of the Gilligan clan. Although Senior Tian Jian has repelled the ruler of the Gilligan clan, who can guarantee that they won't send someone else to deal with you? In my opinion, you should bring Senior Newbies, Senior Jitatai, and great-grandfather with you on this trip to the Qin Empire," Bai Lian worriedly said. Jinshin shook his head. "Lian, you don't have to worry about your brother. With his current strength, people below the 5th heavenly layer are basically no threat to him. If he comes across people above the 5th heavenly layer, they won't be of much use even if he brings them along. At the same time, the ruler of the Gilligan clan has been alarmed by the matter this time, so the people of the Gilligan clan won't dare to set foot on the Tian Yuan continent again. Why would your brother be in danger?" Bai Lian agreed with what he said, so she did not try to persuade him any further. However, she still could not help but warn Jinshin about his safety. The news of the Gilligan clan's king breaking into the Flame Mercenaries did not spread. The news had been completely sealed off. This was all thanks to the fact that the king of the Gilligan clan did not cause too much of a ruckus here. Otherwise, once the matter blew up and everyone knew about it, it would not be easy to seal off the news. Jinshin rested in the Flame Mercenaries for a night before leaving his residence the next morning with the White Tiger. He bid farewell to everyone outside. "Jinshin, come back early. Be careful on the way. You've pulled me far away from you now, and it just so happens that the 3-year period is about to end. Once you leave, I'll immediately enter seclusion and try to break through to Heaven's Saint Master before you return," Ming Dong said with a serious expression. Ming Dong said solemnly. Towards the end, his voice was filled with unconcealable excitement and anticipation. He had been looking forward to reaching Heaven's Saint Master for 3 years already. 15 minutes later, Jinshin left with the sleeping White Tiger under the gazes of a large group of people. Using spatial force, he seemed to have transformed into a bolt of lightning as he shot into the sky at an unbelievable speed. He arrived several thousand meters in the air in a single moment before fusing with the surrounding space. He turned into a blurry blur and shot off into the distance with even greater speed, disappearing in a single moment. Jianshan flew through the open sky with great ease. Looking at the blurry landscape below him, he actually felt a little better. The mental pressure from the Beast God continent and the Protector clans slowly lessened as well. After traveling for over half a day, Jianshan finally returned to Walorant City when the sun was about to set. He then made his way to the city several kilometers away. He had only come to visit the first young master of the Tianqin clan, Qin Xiao, whom he had not seen in a long time. When he had gone to Longevity Valley to pick up Little Fatty, he had planned on immediately returning to Walorant City to take Qin Xiao with him. However, the tungsten alloy had been leaked back then, causing the flame mercenaries to fall into danger. Time was extremely tight, so he did not manage to take Qin Xiao with him. Instead, he directly returned to the flame mercenaries through a space gate in the Qin Empire. Now that he had passed by this place again, he had to visit Qin Xiao no matter what and give him an explanation. After all, Jianshan truly treated Qin Xiao as a brother, not an outsider. Jianshan entered the city without any obstructions. The noise and liveliness on the streets immediately attracted Jianshan's attention, giving him a feeling that he had not felt in a long time. In particular, when he saw the busy merchants and exhausted mercenaries, Jianshan could not help but think of his past self. He immediately sighed inside. A few years ago, wasn't he just like these people? He was busy all day long, mingling in the forest that was filled with magical beasts, repeatedly walking on the edge of life and death, all for the sake of fighting hard for his own future. The path of every single expert could be said to be a path of blood formed from the corpses of countless living beings. Unknowingly, Jianshan had already arrived before the entrance of the Tianqin clan. This time, he did not need to use the senses of his soul to clearly sense Qin Xiao's location. At this moment, Qin Xiao was in the discussion hall of the Tianqin clan with a large group of people. They seemed to be discussing important matters, so the atmosphere in the hall was rather oppressive. At the same time, Jianshan could sense a heavy atmosphere in the Tianqin clan. Even the number of guards at the entrance had increased by quite a bit. Jianshan swaggered in, but the guards at the entrance did not seem to notice his existence. They did not even look at him, allowing Jianshan to pass through the entrance as if he was someone they could ignore. Jianshan's body had become one with the world as he swaggered through the courtyard of the Tianqin clan. Even though he brushed past many people, no one noticed him. Very soon, Jianshan arrived in the hall of the Tianqin clan. At this moment, the charm that seemed to have become one with the world silently vanished, and he returned to his normal state. Everyone in the hall immediately noticed the uninvited guest who had suddenly barged in, causing their expressions to change slightly. However, there were quite a few people who recognized Jianshan. When they saw Jianshan's appearance, they could not help but be stunned, but their sunken expressions returned to normal. Chapter 700. Jianshan smiled. Brother Qin Xiao, Jianshan has come without warning. Have I disturbed you? It's fine. Brother Jianshan is an esteemed guest of my Tianqin clan. My Tianqin clan is more than happy to welcome you. Qin Zhao's father, the patriarch of the Tianqin clan, stood up from his chair and smiled amiably. Afterwards, he extended his hand and pointed at an empty seat nearby. Brother Jianshan, please take a seat. Please take a seat. Jianshan clasped his hands with a smile. Thank you, patriarch. Afterwards, Jianshan did not hold back and directly sat down in an empty seat. With Jianshan's arrival, the heavy atmosphere in the hall seemed to ease up slightly. Many of the upper echelon of the Tianqin clan glanced at Jianshan from time to time. Their eyes flickered with light, but no one knew what they were thinking. Jianshan glanced past everyone in the hall. After a moment of hesitation, he clasped his hands at the patriarch of the Tianqin clan. Patriarch, I see that everyone's eyebrows are tightly furrowed, and their moods are heavy. Has the patriarch of the Tianqin clan come across some trouble that you can't resolve? The patriarch of the Tianqin clan gently sighed. Brother Jianshan is correct. My Tianqin clan has indeed come across some trouble right now. May I ask if the patriarch can say this, but Qin Xiao is one of Jianshan's best brothers. Since you've come across trouble, I will definitely help you out for the sake of Qin Zhao's brother. Jinshin's words indirectly raised Qin Zhao's status in the Tianqin clan. Even though he knew that Qin Zhao was already the next patriarch of the Tianqin clan with his current strength and talent, his actions still helped Qin Zhao quite a bit. Qin Zhao could not help but feel his heart warm up when he heard Jinshin's words. He stared at Jinshin gratefully as he thought, I didn't recognize the wrong brother. Jinshin's words made many of the upper echelon of the Tianqin clan look at Qin Zhao in a different light. The upper echelon of the Qin clan looked at Qin Zhao with gratification, while the upper echelon of the Tianqin clan looked at him with mixed feelings. They were extremely envious and filled with various emotions. The patriarch of the Tianqin clan took in everyone's expressions without batting an eyelid. He laughed aloud. Brother Jinshin, it's Xiao'er's honor to be able to befriend you. My Tianqin clan might really need your assistance this time. Whether or not Qin can return safely will all depend on you. Jinshin's heart skipped a beat. He asked, Patriarch, has something happened to Miss Qin? Qin was the second young lady of the Tianqin clan. The joy on the patriarch's face gradually vanished. He nodded heavily. Brother Jinshin is correct. Qin has indeed encountered trouble this time. Half a month ago, when she went out, she was actually taken away by the serpent dragon bandits on Coiling Dragon Mountain. 2 days later, she married the only son of the leader of the serpent dragon bandits. Jinshin's face sank when he heard that. Although he had only met the second young lady of the Tianqin clan by chance, she was still Qin Zhao's sister. No matter what, he could not bear to see such a beautiful woman marry a stranger under the pressure of bandits. Are the serpent dragon bandits very powerful? Jinshin asked. The patriarch of the Tianqin clan nodded sternly. They are indeed very powerful. The serpent dragon bandits are the greatest bandit group in a radius of several tens of thousand kilometers. They have already existed for over 800 years. Their strength is so great that they can even take on our Zhuya kingdom by themselves. There are many experts in the bandit group as well. There are 4 known Heaven Saint Masters alone. And it's rumored that the number of Heaven Saint Masters in the Serpent Dragon Bandits is definitely not so few. There are even quite a few Heaven Saint Masters from 100 years ago who have gone into seclusion on Coiling Dragon Mountain, ignoring the matters of the world. If these people are included, the Serpent Dragon Bandits will have over a dozen Heaven Saint Masters. Coupled with their first boss who has reached the peak of Heaven Saint Master, even our Zhuya kingdom would not dare to provoke them so easily, let alone our Tianqin clan that can only dominate a single city. A member of the upper echelon of the Tianqin clan who sat beside Jinshin continued. The strength of the Serpent Dragon Bandits is something that even the nearby kingdoms fear. In particular, the first boss of the Serpent Dragon Bandits is publicly acknowledged as the greatest expert in this region. Not only has he reached the peak of Heaven Saint Master, he has also grasped a Heaven-tier battle skill. No one can defeat him in a radius of several tens of thousand kilometers. At the same time, the first boss of the Serpent Dragon Bandits has an extremely powerful armor made of golden silk. With the protection of the armor, even Heaven Saint Masters will struggle to pose a threat to him. This is why the first boss of the Serpent Dragon Bandits is basically the greatest existence below Saint Ruler. In the past, our Zhuya kingdom and the other kingdoms sent out over 10 Heaven Saint Masters in an attempt to wipe out the Serpent Dragon Bandits, but they all returned in defeat. Not only did they fail, but they also lost 5 Heaven Saint Masters. These 5 people all died to the hands of the first boss of the Serpent Dragon Bandits, another old man said. Looks like the first boss of the Serpent Dragon Bandits is quite powerful, Jinshin murmured.